Chapter 819, The Cheating Lu Chuanjin, 5 Elements Fruit Tree. Jinjin, on the tavern's upper floor, Chu Chang's eyes moved toward his younger sister, Chu Jinjin. Seeing that her face bore few signs of the years, always brimming with a happy smile, his dark, profound eyes revealed a color of contentment. All these years, his only concern had been this sister of his. He had hoped that his sister could live a happy, carefree life. But he knew it would be difficult. Because his sister had entered the cultivation world and became a minor chi refinement cultivator. Therefore, during his return, he had purposely prepared many heavenly and earthly treasures. Even a pig, if bombarded with these treasures, could reach the foundation establishment stage. As long as his sister and brother-in-law broke through to the foundation establishment stage, their life would have some guarantee. However, upon learning of the affair at By Lake Mountain involving his sister and her cheap husband, he instantly lost all desire to cultivate this brother-in-law. He decided to use the prepared elixir medicines and spirit fruits to cultivate his very satisfactory nephew, Lu Chuanjin. Now, seeing his sister in such a state, he knew that much of what his nephew, Lu Chuanjin, had said was not false. His sister had, indeed, lived quite well these years, not burdened by the toils of life. This slightly eased his displeasure toward his cheap brother-in-law. Otherwise, he would be tempted to directly find trouble with this cheap brother-in-law. Are these 3 Yuzhen, Caizhen, and Huaizhen? Chu Chang'e then looked toward the handsome young men and beautiful women talking with his sister. Through their facial contours and a vague bloodline connection, he could confirm that these were the other children of his sister. He faintly remembered that 20 years ago, when he visited his sister at Jianghu mountain, there was only a little boy and a little girl by her side, and a baby in her arms. Unnoticed, these children had all grown up. Seeing these children, because of his affection for them out of association with his sister, his eyes also revealed a bit of warmth. Sir, the novel, F. Iyer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. After all, he was destined never to have offspring in this lifetime. Now these children, too, were of the Chu family's bloodline. Chu Chang'e simply watched his sister's family without interfering. Because he did not want to disrupt his sister's peaceful life. Since his sister thought he had died long ago, why bring the sorrow of another parting? Just then, as Chu Jinjin was speaking with her children, she seemed to sense something and suddenly looked up toward the tavern where Chu Chang'e was. She saw an elegant man in black robes drinking alone by the window. Lu Chuanjin also noticed his uncle. Through their interactions over these days, he basically understood his uncle's thoughts, afraid of being recognized by his own mother. Yet he still pretended to be surprised, and called out loud, "Daoist Zhao." Chuanjin, is this a friend of yours? Chu Jinjin, hearing her son calling out, said surprisedly. Yes, mother, this is a good friend of mine from when I was traveling outside. He helped me a lot, Lu Chuanjin spoke calmly and indifferently. Then, he transmitted a message to Chu Chang'e, suggesting they have a meal together or something. Hearing the message from his nephew, Chu Chang'e was silent for a moment, but still cooperated with his nephew's act, showing surprise and delight on his face. He then made his way downstairs to greet Lu Chuanjin, struck up a conversation about old times, and invited Chu Jinjin and the others to dine together. During the meal, Chu Chang'e and Lu Chuanjin told stories about their experiences in the cultivation world that made Chu Jinjin and Lu Caizhen and the others listen with faces full of wonder. Having learned from previous contact with Lu Chuanjin, Chu Chang'e did not talk too much with his sister, fearing she would recognize him. And so, Chu Chang'e passed himself off as simply visiting Red Leaf Valley Market after hearing about it from Lu Chuanjin, and now they were free to meet for tea and chat. Half a year later. Inside the cave mansion at Red Leaf Valley Market. Boom! Lu Chuanjin sat immobile, circulating the 5 elements Kunpeng technique. Suddenly, within his Qi ocean core, spiritual power surged tumultuously. A layer of 5 elements spiritual light circulated around his body, and within the Qi ocean core, a small 5-colored fish swam back and forth, as if it could leap out at any moment and transform into a Kunpeng, swallowing the heavens and earth. 9th level energy refinement. Lu Chuanjin opened his eyes, a smile appearing on his handsome face. Thinking of his experiences over the past half a year, he felt an almost dreamlike sensation. He thought to himself, just what kind of existence his uncle was. Not only did he possess so many heavenly and earthly treasures, but he also knew such profound cultivation techniques. He looked toward the black-robed man who was protecting him not far away, currently wearing a faint smile, and cupped his hands in a bow. "Thank you, uncle. Hee, not bad. Now that your spiritual power has all been converted to the 5 elements Kunpeng technique, breaking through to the foundation establishment will be a matter of course." Chu Chang'e looked at his nephew, nodding with a smile. As he spoke, he took a storage ring out of his chest and said, "Chuanjin, your uncle should be heading back soon. Keep this storage ring. Inside are 3 foundation establishment elixirs, 5 lifespan extension pills, 1 heaven replenishing elixir, and 2 5-element spirit fruits. You can consume the 5-element spirit fruit when you attempt foundation establishment to help enhance and solidify your foundation. The remaining heaven replenishing elixir and 5-element spirit fruits, gift them to your mother. If she really refuses to use them, then give them to Caijin, or give them to your father. As for the other items, arrange them as you see fit." Chu Chang'e said softly. He also knew that his sister's having just broken through to the 6th level energy refinement was not due to a lack of resources in the household. On one hand, his sister's spiritual root talent was poor, only 8th grade. On the other hand, his sister genuinely lacked interest in cultivation. "Uncle." Upon hearing these words, Lu Chuanjin felt somewhat heavy-hearted. Though their initial meeting was full of suspicion and wariness toward this uncle, over the half-year, his uncle had treated him truly and selflessly, without expecting anything in return. Now that he was about to leave, it indeed made him reluctant to part. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 820, The Cheating Lu Chuanjin, 5 Elements Fruit Tree. Take good care of your mother, and if there's an urgent matter, you can send me a message through the token. But uncle is far away, and it may take a while for me to get there. If you ever decide to attempt core formation, you can also notify uncle." Chu Chang'e patted his nephew's shoulder and said softly. Through the past 6 months of contact, teaching, and understanding, he was very satisfied with his nephew, knowing that he had the capability to stand on his own. With this nephew around, his sister could continue to live a good life in the future, without being bullied. "Uncle." Lu Chuanjin had a resolute face and slender eyes. Suddenly lifting his head, he said with a deep voice, "If you run into any trouble, tell me. Although I am powerless now, in the future, I might be able to help uncle." Throughout the half-year, Uncle Chu Chang'e seldom spoke much about his own situation. He only mentioned being a demonic path cultivator, knowing too much about that aspect would not be good for him. Facing this, Lu Chuanjin vaguely guessed that his uncle might be facing some sort of special situation. Otherwise, how could his uncle disappear for 30 years and manage to have possession of so many precious and rare elixir medicines and heavenly and earthly treasures? For instance, the heaven replenishing elixir that improves the spiritual root. The 5-element spirit fruit that can significantly increase the likelihood of foundation establishment, coveted as top-tier core formation spiritual object. The Nell Fire. And a website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. And the rare and uncommon dragon scale fruit, lifespan extension pill, foundation establishment elixir. Plus the soul-nurturing jade that nurtures the soul and the mental spirit, and the 9-eyed Bodhi seed for comprehending cultivation techniques. Any one of these, once placed in the outside world, could cause a bloody storm that would tempt foundation establishment cultivators, even nascent soul immortals. Yet his uncle handed them all to him as if they were worthless. This method even gave him a feeling as if his uncle was making final arrangements, which weighed heavily on his heart. Those are still far from you. If you manage to break through to core formation before the age of 100, and condense a superior gold core, then uncle will tell you about it. Chu Chang'e patted Lu Quanzhen's shoulder with a smile, speaking casually and naturally. His nephew was smart, having been together for so long, he surely realized something. He had not completely hidden it, instead, using it as a form of encouragement, hoping his nephew would diligently practice cultivation. Remember, do not practice the latter part of the Kunpeng swallowing heaven demonic technique unless you've broken through core formation. Wait until you have broken through core formation and ensured your strength before considering practicing the Kunpeng swallowing heaven demonic technique, or at that time uncle might teach you other techniques. Chu Chang'e continued to admonish him. Uncle, Chuanjin understands. Lu Chuanjin said respectfully. Uncle Chu Chang'e taught him the cultivation technique divided into two parts. The upper part was the yin-yang 5 elements Kunpeng technique, and the lower part was the Kunpeng swallowing heaven demonic technique. Because of the difficulty of cultivation, he is currently only practicing a part of the yin-yang 5 elements Kunpeng technique. He would slowly comprehend the yin-yang 5 elements Kunpeng technique after his foundation establishment. The Kunpeng swallowing heaven demonic technique, on the other hand, belonged to demonic techniques. Once fully practiced, the entire technique becomes the Kunpeng devouring heaven demon god technique. This was also Uncle Chu Chang'e's statement that he didn't have any profound orthodox techniques, only this technique that was both righteous and demonic. Perhaps considering he might not be able to return in the future, he therefore gave the entire technique to him. Alright, with that said, Uncle is leaving. Practice well at home, take good care of your mother and your younger siblings. Chu Chang'e hugged his nephew with some reluctance and patted his back. He had said that if there was trouble, his nephew could send him a message. Or what Lu Chuanjin would possibly achieve after his core formation, but he himself was uncertain about the future. I'll see Uncle off. Lu Chuanjin nodded and spoke softly. He walked out of the cave mansion with his uncle and then saw him off through the Red Leaf Valley Market. Chuanjin, take good care of yourself. Remember, do not be impulsive in any matter, think thrice before you act. In this world, only your own strength is eternal. Chu Chang'e told his nephew. These were the words his master had given him years ago, and he had come to profoundly understand their meaning over the years. He now passed these words on to his nephew. After speaking, his figure turned into a streak of light that soared into the sky and then disappeared. Uncle, rest assured, I will break through core formation before the age of 100 and condense a superior gold core. Lu Chuanjin watched as his uncle left, clenching his fists, an expression of determination in his eyes. He knew how difficult it was to break through core formation before the age of 100. Moreover, to condense the legendary top-tier superior gold core. Only the unparalleled geniuses of immortal sects, the nascent soul seeds, had a hope to condense a superior gold core within a century. Half a year ago, let alone a superior gold core. Even achieving foundation establishment before the age of 60 would have been difficult for him. Even though he now possessed a 4th-grade spiritual root, and foundation establishment seemed close at hand, achieving core formation within 100 years was still extremely challenging and uncertain. But no matter what, he now had a goal to strive for and would work towards it. In the azure sky, amidst the winding clouds, an enormous spiritual vessel adorned with spiritual light was speeding through the air. Inside a guest room on the 2nd deck of the spiritual vessel, Lu Changsheng was embracing his 2 warm and fragrant wives, reveling in the joy of traveling thousands of miles in one day. Afterward, he held on to his wives' tender skin and shared intimate words. However, just at this moment, a stream of mana surged out of nowhere and entered his body, turning into liquid mana that flowed into his dantian, accompanied by a system prompt tone. Congratulations, host. Your first offspring has broken through to the 9th level energy refinement, thus earning 1 lottery chance. 9th level energy refinement. When Lu Changsheng heard this system prompt, he was slightly stunned and surprised. If you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 821, The Cheating Lu Chuanjin, 5 Elements Fruit Tree. How come not long ago, my son Lu Chuanjin advanced from the 6th level energy refinement to the 8th level energy refinement? And now there's a child who has broken through to the 9th level energy refinement. What's going on? Are they not striving at home? The moment I leave for a trip, they begin having miraculous encounters, right? What's more, the 9th level energy refinement system even included child money. He had thought that in matters of his children's cultivation, at least until they reached foundation establishment, there would be no new achievement bonuses. He didn't expect that reaching the 9th level energy refinement would suffice. Is it because the 9th level energy refinement is considered the highest level of qi refinement, that there's a treasure? Lu Changxing muttered to himself. Then, with a slight stir in his mental spirit, he opened the system panel to view his son Lu Quanzhen's attribute panel. Name, Lu Xianxia, lifespan, 28/121, talent, 4th grade spiritual root, cultivation level, 9th level energy refinement, talent, management competency, 61%, it really is Xianxia. Seeing his son Lu Quanzhen's attribute panel, Lu Changxing felt a slight pause in his heart, unsure of what his son had been through. He didn't scrutinize or ponder further but continued to be affectionate and intimate with his wife, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan. After all, during such loving moments, how could one be distracted and think of anything else? After a long while, we will probably reach the Azure Phoenix Immortal City in a few days. Lu Changxing and his wife left their room to get some fresh air on the deck, gazing at the rolling sea of clouds outside as he spoke. We have been away from home for so long, I wonder how everything is back home. Lu Miaoge, with her ethereal beauty and temperament like flowing water, said. This trip had already lasted a year and a half. It was the first time she had ventured so far and for so long, naturally causing her some worry about the situation at home. Zi Xiao is keeping watch at home, and Qingzhou Mountain has Uncle and Mu Ping there, so everything should be safe and sound, you need not worry. Lu Changxing held his wife's hand gently and spoke softly. He wasn't worried about the situation at home. After all, Mount Sumeru was there. And Hong Lian could be considered as half a nascent soul cultivator. He was now just eager to know what was happening with his son Lu Xianxia. Not only did his spiritual root advance to the 4th grade, but he also surged from the 6th level energy refinement to the 9th level energy refinement in a short time, truly astonishing. Even at his peak, he hadn't advanced so fiercely. After much casual chatting and breathing fresh air, the three returned to their room. Lu Changxing then thought of the draw he had obtained, thinking inwardly, system, draw. A golden light spun on the pale red roulette. After 5 seconds, the roulette slowly came to a stop under Lu Changxing's watchful eyes, and the golden light landed on treasure. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining a 4th order spiritual plant, 5 elements spirit fruit tree. The reward has been assigned to the system space and can be checked by the host anytime. A tree glistening with a 5-colored luster and laden with fruits appeared from the large roulette wheel, along with the system's voice. A 4th order spiritual plant, 5 elements spirit fruit tree. Upon hearing the system's alert, Lu Changxing's heart skipped a beat. Had it not been for Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan still being present, he would have hardly been able to contain his excitement. A 3rd order spiritual plant is referred to as a heaven and earth spiritual plant. So a 4th order spiritual plant could definitely be considered a heaven and earth spiritual root. He had heard of the great name of the 5 elements spirit fruit tree. The fruits borne by this tree, known as the 5 elements spirit fruit, are also called golden core fruit. These 5 elements spirit fruit not only raised the probability of core formation by 30% but also helped in the formation of a high-quality golden core, making them extremely rare. There were even rumors that consuming these fruits during nascent soul formation could be somewhat beneficial. Lu Changxing had never imagined that while he had always wished to draw a heaven and earth spiritual plant, he would directly receive a 4th order spiritual fruit tree this time. And it was such a rare spirit fruit tree. Sarch * the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. With this 5 elements spirit fruit tree, one could say his family could reliably produce nascent soul cultivators generation after generation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 822. When did improving spiritual roots become so simple? Spirit plant, 5 elements fruit tree, grade, 4th rank, description. the 5-element spirit fruit tree bears fruit every 300 years, ripe after 500 years. Consuming its fruit can condense mana, solidify the foundation, and greatly improve the chances of foundation establishment and core formation. It also has effects on enhancing core formation, cultivation, and magical power. 500 years to maturity, isn't that too slow? Lu Changxing, looking at the introduction of the 5 elements fruit tree in the system space, couldn't help but shake his head. Even though he knew that 3rd and 4th rank spirit fruit trees took a long time to mature, often hundreds or thousands of years, he still couldn't help but sigh when he actually saw that his own fruit tree would only bear once every 500 years. After all, it had been only 32 years since he had embarked on the immortal path. He had yet to get used to the ageless nature of true cultivation. 500 years later, by that time I'll probably have reached the nascent soul, won't I? Lu Changxing thought to himself. He felt that by the time this fruit tree bore fruit, he would probably have advanced to the nascent soul stage, where the 5-element spirit fruit would be of little use to him. This 5-element spirit fruit was destined not for him to consume, but for his wives and children to use in the future. Yuner previously refined the luminous treasure tree into her life-bound spiritual root, which allows her to produce luminous sweet dew through her own mana. Though the quantity is not much, it definitely allows for earlier fruiting. So if I refine this 5 elements fruit tree into a life-bound spiritual root for my family, perhaps it could bear 1 or 2 fruits ahead of time. Lu Changxing thought about some effects of his wife Lu Miao's cultivation of the heavenly longevity technique. Although the heavenly longevity technique has no combat capabilities, besides longevity, it wasn't without its uses. A cultivator can sacrifice the growth of a spirit plant and their own progress in cultivation to induce the fruiting of a spirit tree. However, it may not be easy to plant and nourish such a 4th-rank spirit root. At the very least, it must be planted on a 3rd-order spirit vein and be carefully tended. Lu Changxing immediately realized that what he needed to consider was not the fruiting of the 5 elements fruit tree. Rather, he had to consider whether his family can even keep it alive. After all, theoretically, a 4th-order spiritual plant requires at least a 3rd-order spirit vein to survive. And a 3rd-order spirit vein could just barely keep it alive. To nourish it well was another matter. A lacking spirit vein not only affects growth but could also, through a single oversight, result in the death of the spirit tree. Bai Yin Peak currently has only a 2nd-order top-grade spirit vein. To advance it to the 3rd order might take forever. Lu Changxing let out a breath. Upgrading a spirit vein was incredibly difficult. To upgrade his own spirit vein from 2nd-grade medium quality to high quality, he had spent 2 spiritual origin pearls. And that was when his spirit vein was already at the upper limit of 2nd-grade medium quality. If he wanted to quickly upgrade the current spirit vein to 2nd-order top grade, he would need 7 or 8 spiritual origin pearls, let alone upgrading to the 3rd order. Even if he were wealthier, it wasn't something to undertake lightly. Unless he was lucky and won some items from the spiritual eye spring in the system lottery. However, it might be possible to keep it alive within the Mount Sumeru cave heaven, Lu Changxing pondered secretly. Although there were no spirit veins in the Mount Sumeru cave heaven, Mount Sumeru could control the heavens and the earth on its own, distributing spiritual energy and forming regions similar to spirit veins within the cave heaven. So planting it within the Mount Sumeru cave heaven might just keep the 5 elements fruit tree alive. However, relying on Bai Yun Peak spirit vein and spiritual eye spring, it might also be very difficult to nourish this 5 elements fruit tree, with substantial consumption. Never mind, they'll find a way when the time comes. I also don't know how the Mount Sumeru is doing after absorbing the Emperor's essence, whether the coexisting spiritual plants have been nurtured or not. Lu Changxing exhaled lightly. He planned to put the 5 elements fruit tree in the system space temporarily and wait until conditions were right before planting and cultivating it. By Lake Mountain. Lu family mansion. Oh, Chuanjin, you're back? Chu Jinjin was delighted to hear of her son Lu Quanzhen's return. Mother. Lu Chuanjin, looking at his mother in front of him and thinking of the uncle who had just left, felt a slight heaviness in his heart. He understood his uncle's thoughts. Whether or not he achieved success on the immortal path, he only wished for his mother to live a worry-free and happy life. He sat down to chat with his mother, trying to relieve her fatigue and talking about amusing things. Then he took out the heaven-replenishing elixir given by his uncle and said, "Mother, this is a gift I got for you. It has effects for beautifying the skin and increasing cultivation." Hee, Xianxia, you're so thoughtful. Sir, the novel, F.I.R. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Xianxia smiled happily when she heard her son's words. After all, her son not only took the time to visit his mother, but his siblings had gone out to play as well. Now, he also knew to come back home to visit her, which comforted her. However, looking at the dark jade porcelain bottle, she gently said, "Xianxia, your mother doesn't need any elixirs right now, you shouldn't waste spirit stones. If you really want to make your mother happy, you should marry soon. Don't delay any longer. Let your mother hold your children at home. Your brother Yun got his 7th child on the way just last month." Xianxia's voice trailed off with a hint of grievance and envy. She had a good relationship with Lu Miaoyun. So seeing how obedient Lu Yun was, arranging 1 wife and 4 concubines, with 6 children, she felt very envious. Lu Xianxia, hearing this, Lu Xianxia immediately felt a headache coming on. He usually avoided his mother exactly because she loved to bring this up every time they met. And with Lu Yun as a comparison, he didn't even know what to say in response. "Mother, I understand. Please take this elixir. I have something else to attend to, we'll talk more later." Lu Xianxia set down the elixir and quickly found an excuse to leave. Xianxia. Xianxia watched her son depart as if he were escaping and showed a touch of sadness on her face. However, looking at the dark jade porcelain bottle on the table, her eyes still revealed a sense of relief. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 823. When did enhancing a spiritual root become so easy? In years past, her son would also give her, his mother, little gifts, but seldom would he give her elixir medicines. On one hand, the price of elixir medicines was somewhat expensive. On the other hand, Bai Lake Mountain lacked nothing in the way of elixir medicines for her. Each month, she even gave the elixirs allotted for her own cultivation to her son, Lu Xianxia, and her daughter, Lu Caixin. With the cultivation speed that Lu Xianxia possessed, it could be said that his mother's contributions played a part in it. How beautiful these elixir medicines are. Xianxia opened the porcelain bottle and saw the heaven-replenishing elixirs inside, her gentle and amiable face showing a look of surprise. She might not have been greatly interested in cultivation, but over the years, she had gained a substantial understanding of the cultivation world. She knew that this kind of elixir medicine was no common product, it was extremely rare and precious. Xianxia. She hurriedly got up to stop her son, indicating that the elixir was too precious for her to use. But her son, Lu Xianxia, had long since disappeared without a trace. "Mother, did you nag brother about his marriage affairs again? I saw brother escaping on his flying sword in the blink of an eye." At that moment, her daughter Lu Caixin, dressed in a light goose-yellow dress and with a cute face, came over with a giggling smile. "Humph, your brother is already so old, can't I, his mother, mention it?" "Look at your brother Yun," Xianxia said somewhat aggrieved. All right, mother, don't be angry. This is the spiritual honey produced by the jade bees I've recently started raising. It's very sweet, and sister and brother both said it tastes good, you should try it." Lu Caixin didn't pick up on the topic but rather like offering a treasure, took out a bee box and changed the subject. Originally, she had a bit of interest in beekeeping and Lu Changxing naturally indulged her, getting her a few hives of flower bees. Although many hives had died, thanks to their rich parents and their relentless spirit, she eventually became a formal beekeeper. Usually, it allowed her to produce some honey for the family consumption. "Mother, give it a try." Upon hearing this, Xianxia's face immediately broke into a smile, putting aside the matters concerning her son, Lu Xianxia. She had remained happy all these years, having come out from the shadows of her family's annihilation, in part due to the presence of her loved ones and also due to her own forgetful and optimistic nature. It really is delicious. Chu Jinjin drank a cup of honey water, her eyes curving like crescent moons in joy. Then, looking at the ink jade porcelain bottle in her hand, she said, "Saijin, this is the elixir medicine your brother gave you. It's said to have skin beautifying and cultivation boosting effects. Mother doesn't need it, so you take it and use it." This elixir appeared precious, and she couldn't bear to use it herself. She also knew that when her son and husband gave her gifts, they wouldn't take them back once given. So, she decided to let her daughter use it. After all, this daughter, like her, loved to play around and was not keen on cultivating, having only recently made a breakthrough to the 4th level energy refinement. Wow, what a beautiful elixir. Lu Caijin also expressed surprise upon seeing the heaven-replenishing elixir inside the porcelain bottle. After all, not only was the elixir crystal clear and radiant, but it also seemed to have a life of its own. Its luster pulsated faintly, as if breathing, and threads of light flowed through it naturally. She voiced her refusal. "Mother, since brother gave it to you, you should use it." "It's okay, mother doesn't need it, take it," Chu Jinjin said affectionately. "Thank you, mother." Lu Caijin didn't refuse any further and affectionately gripped her mother's wrist. "By the way, Caijin, how are things between you and Xuanji now?" Chu Jinjin gently stroked her children's hair and asked. She knew that her daughter, Lu Caijin, was on good terms with Hong Yi's son, Hong Xuanji, and they were quite close. "Mother," Lu Caijin immediately behaved bashfully at that remark. "Mother is just asking." Chu Jinjin clung to her daughter's arm and spoke with a coquettish tone. "Azure Phoenix Immortal City. We've finally arrived." Lu Changsheng, his wife Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan gazed at the city before them, disembarking from the ancient moon spirit ship. It would be another 2 months before the spiritual vessel from Azure Phoenix Immortal City was due to return to Qingyun Market. But Lu Changsheng still planned to take the spiritual vessel home rather than pilot the spirit boat himself. After all, there was no rush over these few months, as traveling by spiritual vessel was much safer and more relaxing. The three rented a courtyard in the inner city and then leisurely picked out some gifts for their wives and children back home. Lu Changsheng also planned to purchase a large amount of demon beast skeletons, demon beast blood, and demon beast crystal cores, among other materials. Because of its proximity to the myriad beasts mountain range and the large number of loose cultivators around, demon beast materials were generally 30 to 40% cheaper in Azure Phoenix Immortal City than in other places. Whether for talisman making, crafting beast-shaped puppets, or as Hong Lian suggested, for medicinal baths, the majority of the raw materials came from demon beasts. Just then, a thick, mysterious vibration surged through Lu Changsheng's body. Lu Changsheng paused slightly. He knew this was the fluctuation of a spiritual root. But he had no children being born, and for his grandchildren, unless it was a top-grade spiritual root, there wouldn't be such an effect of a spiritual root enhancement. His mental spirit stirred slightly as he looked at the system. There was an increase in his grandchildren, but no spiritual root was listed. Sarch * the novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Could it be Chuanjin again? Lu Changsheng looked at his son, Lu Chuanjin. There was no change in his attributes panel. This left him somewhat surprised, and he began to review the attribute panels of his children. After about a quarter of an hour, he finally found out which of his children had a boost in their spiritual root. Name, Lu Caijin, lifespan, 25/93, talent, 5th grade spiritual root, cultivation level, 4th level qi refinement, talent, beekeeping compatibility, 38%. Is it because of Chuanjin? Lu Changsheng looked at his daughter's attribute panel with a slight frown, guessing it had something to do with his son, Lu Chuanjin. After all, not long ago his son Lu Quanzhen's 8th grade spiritual root upgraded to 4th grade, and now his daughter Lu Caijin had gone from 9th grade to 5th grade. Since when did raising a spiritual root become so easy? Lu Changsheng took a deep breath, somewhat baffled by the situation. Apart from the hope goo, he hadn't encountered any heavenly and earthly treasures that could enhance a spiritual root. It had taken him a full 12 years to advance his spiritual route from 9th grade to 5th grade, and 17 years to progress to 4th grade. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 824. Since when did improving spiritual roots become so easy? But their children had made rapid progress to the 5th grade and 4th grade levels in just a short time. At this moment, Lu Changsheng's thoughts of returning home became even more urgent, wanting to understand what was going on with his children. By Lake Mountain. Inside a courtyard, in the practice room. This. Lu Caizhen opened her eyes, looking at her hands, feeling the speed of her recent cultivation. She was astonished. After taking the elixir medicine her mother gave her, there was no noticeable increase in her cultivation level. She only felt a mysterious sensation throughout her body, as if, in some inexplicable way, her spiritual root had been enhanced. Then she attempted to meditate and cultivate. To her discovery, her cultivation speed was several times faster than before, leaving her utterly amazed. What kind of elixir medicine is this? It can actually enhance the spiritual root. Sea the Fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Lu Caizhen muttered to herself, realizing the pill was extraordinary, and hastily went to find her mother. At the same time, Lu Chuanjun came to visit his own mother. After all, the heaven-replenishing elixir was of great importance. His mother would definitely realize something was amiss after taking it, and he needed to explain and instruct her. Chuanjun, do you have something to tell me? Chu Zhenjin looked at her son coming to find her again and happily inquired. Her son was avoiding her all day long, coming over yesterday, and again today, which made her somewhat surprised. Mother, the pill I gave you, haven't you taken it yet? Lu Chuanjun looked at his mother and guessed that she hadn't taken it yet. Chuanjun, where did you get that pill? It looks very precious, and I thought it wasn't necessary, so I gave it to Caizhen. Chu Zhenjin spoke thusly. Gave it to Caizhen? Lu Quanzhen's heart skipped a beat upon hearing this. Although his uncle had said that if his mother didn't want it, he could give it to his sister or perhaps his father. But there was only one heaven-replenishing elixir left, and if it really came down to making a decision, he would without question choose his mother, Chu Zhenjin. After all, it was his uncle's intention. It was for this reason that he worried his mother would refuse, so he made up a reason. But unexpectedly, due to an unfortunate twist of fate, his mother had given the elixir to his sister. Chuanjun, what is it? Chu Zhenjin looked at her son, sensing that something was not quite right. It's nothing, I was just asking. Since it's given to Caizhen, it's given to Caizhen. I have something to discuss with her anyway. Lu Chuanjun kept his expression calm, and with a faint smile, he responded nonchalantly. He knew that once his sister took the pill, she would realize the effects were not as expected, and he needed to explain and instruct her. However, just as he got up and hadn't even stepped out of the door, he saw his sister hurrying over frantically. Mother. Mother. Brother, you're here too, what kind of pill did you give to mother? After I took it, I felt like my spiritual root. Lu Caizhen saw her brother and immediately spoke out. Lu Chuanjun looked at his impetuous sister, smacked his own forehead, and sighed. Then, in front of his mother and sister's attentive gaze, Lu Chuanjun explained without a change in expression. He stated that the pill was something he had obtained from a fortunate encounter some time ago. After taking it himself, his spiritual root was enhanced. Thus, after much thought, he decided that his mother should take the remaining one. This way, mother could cultivate properly, and perhaps in the future, she might even break through to the foundation establishment stage, providing more companionship for father and her children. But considering that his mother would definitely not want to use it herself, he made up a reason. The improvement of the spiritual root, Chuanjun, actually this elixir medicine could be given to your father. Your father's spiritual root is not good. If he could improve his spiritual root, future cultivation would be much easier. Chu Zhenjin's face showed a hint of regret. She wasn't pitying herself, she just felt the elixir medicine was more suitable for Lu Changxing. Mother, brother. Lu Kaizen's hair curled softly, her fingers fidgeting with the corner of her clothes, feeling guilty for having consumed such a precious pill. It's okay, what's done is done. Concentrate more on cultivation in the future. Lu Qiuanjun said softly, without blaming his sister. After all, this was his own oversight. He looked at his sister with a serious expression, instructing, Caizhen, the matter of the spiritual root is of great importance. You must never carelessly disclose it to anyone, understand? Brother, I know. Lu Caizhen nodded repeatedly. She had been cultivating for so long and had not heard of an elixir medicine or heavenly and earthly treasures that could improve a spiritual root. She knew that being privy to such information could easily cause trouble. After Lu Qiuanjun had reassured his sister, Chu Zhenjin, anxious her son might be upset, whispered, Qiuanjun, your mother has something to tell you. Actually, your father had given your mother a cultivation method called Heavenly Longevity Technique. Your aunt Lu Miaoyun is cultivating this technique. Once your father finds a spirit plant, your mother will be able to cultivate it too, so don't worry about her. Chu Zhenjin said softly, revealing the Heavenly Longevity Technique to her son. Heavenly Longevity Technique, by refining heaven and earth spiritual plants, has no bottleneck and doubles one's lifespan. Lu Qiuanjun paused, somewhat surprised. He hadn't expected his family to possess such a cultivation method. But he was aware of how rare heaven and earth spiritual plants were. It was already quite fortunate that his father found one for his aunt Lu Miaoyun. However, finding another for his own mother to cultivate would likely not be easy. There are still 4 years left until the Purple Shadow Secret Realm opens. Now that I am at the 9th level energy refinement, if I concentrate on refining my technique during this period, perhaps I could find a heaven and earth spiritual plant when I venture into the Purple Shadow Secret Realm. Lu Qiuanjun narrowed his eyes, murmuring to himself. The Purple Shadow Secret Realm opened once every 30 years. Upon learning of this secret realm, he had planned to break through to the 7th level energy refinement before its opening and take his chances exploring it. Now, hearing his mother's words and having reached the 9th level cultivation level, he also felt confident in visiting it. 2 months later, Lu Changxing, accompanied by his wives and concubines, boarded the spiritual vessel and set off on the return journey to the Qingyun region. On this trip, he also planned to ask Li Feiyu whether he wanted to return with him. But after learning that the latter had been out and not at home, he let out a slight sigh. As he had guessed, Li Feiyu's mentality had been somewhat influenced by himself. He was preparing for one final effort in the next few years. With a substitute talisman, Feiyu should be able to escape if he encounters any danger. Lu Changxing stood on the deck, contemplating. But as he gazed at the overlapping peaks and the endlessly extending Myriad Beasts mountain range, his heart lurched, realizing a problem. A substitute talisman could form a puppet substitute to take one's place in the face of life-threatening danger, then transport the user 1,000 miles away. However, this transportation was random and not under the user's control. Li Feiyu, who had long honed his skills in the Myriad Beasts mountain range, might be randomly transported even deeper into the wilderness if he used a substitute talisman. And deep within the Myriad Beasts mountain range, not to mention energy refining cultivators, even those at the foundation establishment and nascent soul cultivation levels faced great danger. It shouldn't be that bad, Lu Changxing shook his head, believing that after so many years, Li Feiyu's luck couldn't possibly be so poor. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 825, Li Feiyu, what a coincidence. Myriad Beasts mountain range. Lush and leafy, the forest with its dense foliage covered the sky. Swish. 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 A tall middle-aged man in black armor dashed through the woods like a hunting leopard, his physical body tearing through the air and creating a long wave, like river water churning, stirring up a noise that crackled and popped. Roar. Just then, a demon beast's roar thundered out from up ahead, causing a fierce wind to blow through the forest and bringing with it a stench of blood. Damn it! Li Feiyu, upon hearing this roar, paused his steps, and a cold expression crossed his face, now looking somewhat unsightly. Li Changjing, let's see where you can run to now. Two streaks of escape light shot towards Li Feiyu at this moment. One of them was a violet-faced, tall, 50-something-year-old old man looking at Li Feiyu with murderous intent on his face. Elder Zhu, with a second-order monster beast attacking now, if you insist on killing me, you could also be in danger if that beast gets entangled with you. Li Feiyu looked at the old man and said solemnly. The two were both loose cultivators from Azure Phoenix Immortal City. They had formed enmity during a beast tide. Both at the 9th level of energy refinement, Li Feiyu was naturally not afraid of the other party and even thought of taking him down someday. But who would have known that nearly 60 years old, the other party would make a last desperate attempt and actually succeed in achieving foundation establishment, and now they encountered each other in this mountain range. Even though he practiced magical dual cultivation, he couldn't possibly be a match for the other party and could only rely on the terrain of the mountain range to flee. He still had some hope of escaping, but who knew that his luck would be so terrible as to encounter a second-order monster beast on the periphery of the Myriad Beasts mountain range. If you want me to withdraw, that can be arranged, as long as you hand over your storage bag, and we can cancel all our grievances, Zhu said with narrowing eyes. His attack on Li Feiyu was not only due to past vengeance but also because he knew that Li Feiyu was plotting for foundation establishment and had considerable savings. To break through to foundation establishment, he had not only spent all his spirit stones but also incurred a huge debt. Now without even one decent spiritual artifact, he naturally did not want to let Li Feiyu go. Boom! 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 In the midst of their conversation, the ground trembled. Out of nowhere, a huge black bear charged out from the forest. The bear was sturdy, standing tall on its hind legs, several meters high, and emanated an overwhelming and foul stench. No good, this is a mid-grade Earth-level bear demon, the Black Fiend Bear. How can an Earth-grade bloodline monster beast appear on the outskirts of the mountain range? The three of them, upon seeing this black bear demon, all changed in color. On the outskirts of the Myriad Beasts mountain range, although second-order monster beasts roamed, it was rare for Earth-grade bloodline monster beasts to appear. Even high-rank bloodline monster beasts were not common. Such Earth-grade bloodline monster beasts had combat abilities far surpassing ordinary foundation establishment and were tremendously difficult to deal with. Moreover, once the Myriad Beasts mountain range made too much of a commotion, it might even attract other monster beasts, which was very dangerous. This Black Fiend Bear has an Earth-grade bloodline. Inside it, there might be a special monster core. It'll call for people now, we might even make a small fortune. Upon witnessing this scene, Zhu made a quick decision, formed a gesture incantation with his hands, and his mana surged within him, creating wind barriers around him to envelope Li Feiyu and cut off his escape, hoping to draw the Black Fiend Bear's attention. He then transformed into a streak of escape light, taking his Dao companion and turning to flee, ready to leave the Myriad Beasts mountain range. Damn it! Li Feiyu's eyes turned fierce, his expression dark and ugly as he quickly invoked a protective aura and then slapped his storage bag, taking out a golden light barrier talisman to use, trying to make a break for it. Roar! The Black Fiend Bear let out a roaring howl, its massive body, like a small mountain, crashing down with a thick black aura. CTH Novel Fire. Net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Faced with this terrifying force, the golden light around Li Feiyu shattered instantly. Just then, the substitute talisman on his forehead burst into flames, unleashing a mystic force that enveloped his body. Whoosh! Soon after, the world spun around him, leaving behind a dazed Li Feiyu. Deep within the Myriad Beasts mountain range. A valley amidst a range of perilous peaks. This place was filled with several terrifying presences. In the midst, there was a strikingly beautiful woman, with sharp and distinct features, emanating a sharp and domineering air, dressed in Qingjin armor, standing atop a cyan bird. Her figure was tall and imposing, her eyes blazing like stars, her hands clasped behind her back as if she was a spear supporting the heavens and the earth, radiating a piercing and authoritarian presence. This person was none other than Jiang Kingdom's #1 independent cultivator, the city lord of Azure Phoenix Immortal City, the Azure Phoenix Immortal. At this moment, the Azure Phoenix Immortal was looking down at the valley in front of her, discussing something with a few cultivators beside her. Around the valley, cultivators and array masters were controlling formation flags and working on something against a huge cliff face. Just then, a ripple surged through the air, and a figure suddenly appeared, falling from the clouds. Not good. Li Feiyu felt the surrounding darkness disappear, but his body was falling fast, and he realized he was high up in the sky. His spiritual power surged within him, and he slapped his storage bag, deploying his flying artifact. However, just as he stabilized himself and took a good look around, he immediately sensed something amiss. Not far from him stood several figures. Even though these figures didn't show much mana or spiritual pressure, just their gazes upon him made his body stiffen, his spiritual power sluggish, and his breath short. Especially the person in the center, wearing the green armor and standing on a cyan bird, made his throat go dry and his heart start to thump 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 in panic. He had never seen Azure Phoenix Immortal up close. But seeing the third-rank Qing Yuan under her feet, he immediately knew her identity. What is this place? It seems to be inside the Myriad Beasts mountain range. Why is Azure Phoenix Immortal here? And from the looks of it, she seems to be setting up a formation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know and report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 826, Li Feiyu. What a coincidence, right? Li Feiyu's body stiffened, his heart heavy, and his mind whirled rapidly, considering what he should do in the current situation. After all, he had appeared here out of nowhere, and if he couldn't provide a reasonable explanation, he was afraid he wouldn't be able to leave alive. He saw Azure Phoenix Immortal's cold and sharp eyes looking toward him, and his heart trembled. He immediately bowed and said, "This humble one, Li Feiyu, pays his respects to City Lord." Just that look from Azure Phoenix Immortal filled Li Feiyu with terror, feeling an intense suffocation. It felt like a simple shift in her gaze could kill him. You recognize me?" The Azure Phoenix Immortal stood with her hands behind her back, her tall figure imposing, and her voice calm and indifferent. This humble one had the fortune to see City Lord during the Beast Tide. Li Feiyu's body remained rigid, as if there were thorns on his back, as he bowed respectfully. "Why have you come here?" The Azure Phoenix Immortal continued to speak. As a nascent soul grand cultivator, she had sensed a surge of spatial mana fluctuation the instant Li Feiyu appeared. The fluctuation was faint, but no matter what, it was not something a mere 9th level Qi refinement cultivator like him could touch, so there definitely had to be a secret. Especially considering he had appeared right here. At this moment, Li Feiyu had absolutely no idea how to explain. He couldn't just say that a talisman given to him by a good brother randomly transferred him here, could he? Even if he said it, the other party wouldn't believe it. Just then, he noticed the surrounding scenery and the mountainside below him, and his heart skipped a beat, feeling inexplicably familiar. This is the entrance to the ancient relic site indicated by Changsheng's treasure map. Azure Phoenix Immortal is leading people to break the formation, trying to breach this ancient relic site. In this life and death situation, Li Feiyu's mind raced like lightning, remembering why the place was familiar to him, and realizing why Azure Phoenix Immortal was here. At this moment, he simply didn't know what to say. This was too much of a coincidence. He had actually appeared at the location of the ancient relic site due to the random transfer of the life substitute talisman. The only problem was that Azure Phoenix Immortal was currently digging and exploring this relic site. At that moment, a false core immortal by her side let out a light hum. Instantly, the energy and blood in Li Feiyu's body churned, and he found it hard to breathe, almost falling from the sky. He bit his teeth and forced out, to report back to City Lord. This humble one inadvertently obtained a treasure map from a cave mansion years ago, relating to an ancient relic site. This humble one is at the 9th level of Qi refinement, but with only a lower grade spiritual root, foundation establishment is bleak, so I wanted to make one last effort through this relic site. SAR the Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The reason I am here is because that cave mansion had a prohibited arrangement resembling an ancient teleportation array, and after countless trials, I finally triggered it, and then the world spun around, and I inexplicably appeared here. Li Feiyu, while speaking, felt the pressure around him dissipate significantly, knowing he must have guessed correctly. He quickly said, "To be able to meet City Lord here is this humble one's honor. I am willing to offer the treasure map and the information about the ancient relic site to City Lord." In the current situation, he knew there was only one choice he could make. That was to actively offer the information about the ancient relic site. The Azure Phoenix Immortal before him, as the master of the Azure Phoenix Immortal City and Jianghu Kingdom's #1 independent cultivator, a highly respected figure, would have some regard for face. As long as he voluntarily offered the relic site, and if the information provided was helpful, she might be willing to take him along and perhaps even provide some benefits. "If your words are true, I won't be stingy with your reward." The Azure Phoenix Immortal said so. As a nascent soul immortal, she could tell that Li Feiyu was lying and not telling the whole truth. But, coming from the background of an independent cultivator, she understood his psychology very well. As long as Li Feiyu was willing to offer the information about the relic site truthfully, she was also willing to give him a chance. "Thank you, City Lord." Li Feiyu quickly expressed his gratitude, then narrated the information from the treasure map. Fortunately, he was a cultivator, with an extraordinary memory. After seeing the treasure map previously, he had remembered the details clearly. Outside Qingyun Market, Lu Changxing released the spirit boat, and with his wife Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan, they maneuvered the spirit boat flying towards Bihu Lake Mountain. After such a long journey, they were finally about to return home. At this moment, not only him, but also Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan, felt somewhat emotionally stirred. Just then, Lu Changxing felt a sudden premonition, an indescribable intuition emerging within him. In that instant, he sensed that a substitute talisman he had made had been used. For ordinary talismans, this would be impossible. But he had nurtured these life substitute talismans using the talisman nurturing method for a long time. They contained his mana, essence, chi, and spirit, creating a faint connection between them. The talisman being consumed triggered a spur-of-the-moment premonition in him. Could it be Feiyu? Lu Changxing murmured to himself. His intuition told him that the talisman that had been used came from the direction of Azure Phoenix Immortal City, Myriad Beasts Mountain Range. If this talisman was used, it means Feiyu has encountered a life-threatening danger. I hope he can be safe and overcome this trial. Lu Changxing felt a heaviness in his heart. As his only friend in this world, his one and only good brother. Even though they rarely saw each other now, he still wished his friend would live well and get better and better. "Changxing, what's wrong?" Lu Miaoga noticed Lu Changxing was a bit lost in thought, and looking at him, her voice was gentle. Through the many years of living together, she had come to realize that her husband would occasionally become pensive, assuming he was burdened with worries. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 827, Li Feiyu, what a coincidence. There's nothing much, just feeling a bit excited thinking about going home soon. Lu Changxing spoke to his wife in a gentle voice. This trip had lasted over 2 years, his longest journey yet, and he indeed was eager to return. Steering the spirit boat, the three of them returned to Bai Lake Mountain half a month later. Greetings to the mountain master, greetings to the lady. My lord. Dad, Aunt, you're back? The guards at the Lu family mountain gate immediately greeted Lu Changxing, Lu Miaoga, and Lu Miaohuan upon their arrival. Emichim. The 3 members of the Lu family nodded. They had kept their trip a secret, known only to Ling Zixiao and a few others. However, over 2 years had passed, and by now, the children and wives at home must have been aware. What's this about? Upon entering by Lake Mountain, Lu Changxing immediately noticed some changes around his home. A series of villas and houses had been built along the banks of Baishui Lake. And around Lake Heart Island, water pavilions had risen. As for Lake Heart Island itself, it was enshrouded in a formation. It must be Sister Ling arranging the formation, making some changes, right? Lu Miaoge observed the scene and suggested. Although the Lu family's affairs were managed by the family head Lu Yun, such changes obviously weren't his doing but could only be the work of Ling Zixiao. It should be so. Lu Changxing nodded slightly and did not dwell on it. He planned to inquire about it with Ling Zixiao later. Soon after, the three made their way back to the Lu family mansion at Baiyun Peak. The return of Lu Changxing and the others stirred up excitement at home. Lu Miaoyun, Chu Zhenjin, Ling Zixiao, and Lu Wangshu along with other wives and children, hurriedly came to greet them. My lord, my lord. Dad, Mom. Chu Zhenjin and Lu Wangshu immediately rushed forward excitedly to embrace Lu Changxing and the others. However, Lu Wangshu huffed at her father and embraced Lu Miaoge instead. Having been cared for by Lu Miaoge since she was a child, she called her mom directly and was very close to her. Hee. Lu Changxing hugged his petite wife with a chuckle. He then embraced his wife Lu Miaoyun, holding each of them in his arms one by one, speaking to them with care. Little Wangshu, what's wrong? Aren't you happy to see Daddy? At that moment, Lu Changxing turned to Lu Wangshu, who was displaying a come and indulge me expression, and laughingly said. Their daughter was growing up. Now, after 2 years, she was almost 15 and had blossomed into a graceful young lady, with traces of the young lady Xiaoxia in her features. Her cultivation level also reached the 4th level of energy refinement. Humph, you went out to have fun without me and didn't even tell me. Lu Wangshu expressed her grievances with an aggrieved look. Daddy had business this trip, next time I'll take you with me when we go for fun. Lu Changxing gently rubbed his daughter's head and tenderly said, Come, Daddy has prepared a gift for you. You know how much I missed you. Lu Wangshu tilted her cute face upward, speaking in a pitiable tone. Hiss, seeing his daughter looking like this, Lu Changxing instantly felt a pang in his heart and was quite remorseful. He repeatedly apologized, Daddy is wrong, I'll definitely tell you next time. There's going to be a next time? Lu Wangshu's lips pursed slightly, pretending to be upset. No, no more. Lu Changxing quickly said, turning to look at the smiling and laughing faces of his wives and children who seemed envious, and swiftly changed the subject. Come, I've prepared gifts for all of you on this trip. While speaking, he took out the gifts prepared for them from his storage bag. After pacifying his wives and children with gifts, Lu Changxing then took the time to chat with his wives and inquire about how they were doing, as well as the 6 babies before he had left. He had long been aware of the situation of these 6 newborns, 3 of whom possessed a spiritual root. Among them, 1 was 5th grade, 1 6th grade, and 1 7th grade. Later, during a casual chat with Lu Miaoyun, Lu Changxing learned that the family had turned its losses into profits. Although the profit wasn't substantial, at least they were profitable. Moreover, not long ago, the golden armor bean mother had produced beans again. This time, it bore 9 golden armor spirit beans. Hearing this, Lu Changxing's heart filled with joy. CTH Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Previously, he had given 8 golden armor spirit beans to his son, Lu Xianji, 3 of which were used to assist in daily puppet crafting, leaving himself with only 5. On this trip to visit his children at Yu Country's Jianghu sect, he had given his son, Lu Qingshan, 1, and his daughter, Lu Qingzhu, 2, resulting in only 2 remaining in his hands. Now that the golden armor bean mother had produced beans again, his resources were abundant once more. Not only would his own puppet crafting be much easier, but Lu Xianxi's puppet crafting would also benefit greatly. After understanding the general situation at home, Lu Changxing inquired about Ling Zixiao's condition. He learned that her health issue had been resolved, and her cultivation technique had shifted to the 12 capital demon divine technique. As he had surmised, the dragon roar physique began to show signs of recovery as she started her cultivation. He estimated that in another 3 to 5 years, the dragon roar physique would recover, impacting her condition. Zixiao, rest assured, I will find a way to completely solve it, Lu Changxing solemnly said. Later, he asked about the situation at Baishui Lake. Lord, the spirit vein below Baishui Lake has been promoted to second rank, Ling Zixiao, dressed in a deep blue palace gown with a beautiful and elegant countenance, softly told Lu Changxing. This was after she had completed the oceanic formation, enhancing the spirit vein of Baishui Lake to second rank. Lake Heart Island was now considered to be within the core area of the spirit vein. Under such circumstances, giving Lake Heart Island to the families visiting nobles, foreign apprentices, and servants for residents clearly didn't make sense. Moreover, Lu Changxing had intended to plant spirit plants for Lu Miaohuan and Chu Jinjin to cultivate the heavenly longevity technique. Therefore, she had vacated Lake Heart Island under the pretext of arranging formations. Houses along the lake shore were for the family's foreign cultivators, apprentices, and servants. Water pavilions around the island were for the visiting nobles to reside in. As for the core Lake Heart Island, it could be used to plant spirit plants, with family members personally overseeing it. Zixiao, you've been thoughtful, Lu Changxing said, nodding in acknowledgement. He had planted the abyssal ghoul blossom inside Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven, as there was temporarily no suitable location in the family. Now, with the second-rank spirit vein of Baishui Lake, the abyssal ghoul blossom could be moved from Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven to Lake Heart Island. This would also facilitate Lu Miaohuan's cultivation of the heavenly longevity technique. Zixiao, how has Su Ruian been performing these years? Lu Changxing continued to inquire. This pearl of the Su family had been imprisoned in their household for 7 years. Upon going out, he intended to offer her a pet beast, and now that he had drawn the heavenly demon phoenix as a spiritual pet, he also planned to fulfill the initial grand promise, allowing her to cultivate beast techniques with this spiritual pet. Su Ruian has been quite obedient these years, Ling Zixiao said with an elegant smile, discussing Su Ruian's years. The first year, she basically spent nurturing her pregnancy at home. After having the child, maybe she had resigned herself to fate, feeling a greater sense of belonging to the household. Hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded. Having discussed most matters, he thought of his son Lu Chuanjin. However, he learned that Lu Chuanjin was not at home and was at Red Leaf Valley Market. Although his daughter Lu Caijin was home, her lack of change in cultivation level meant she likely didn't know much. Immediately, Lu Changxing tried to subtly express his concern for his son Lu Chuanjin through Chu Jinjin. Before long, Chu Jinjin voluntarily began to speak of their son's affairs. She also revealed how their son had brought elixir medicines for her, and expressed regret that she hadn't been able to offer them to Lu Changxing. It's all right, it's good for Chuanjin to have such an opportunity, and handing them to Caijin is just as well, Lu Changxing said with a smile, cradling his beloved wife, planning to inquire further when his son returned. If it was simply a stroke of luck, as a father, he wouldn't ask too many questions. After all, everyone has their secrets, and his son was grown now. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 828, Mount Sumeru's Spirit Body, distributes spirit plants. Blue Cloud Peak Summit. Mount Sumeru, has it been successful? Lu Changxing looked at the sapling beside the Mount Sumeru tree, which was less than a meter tall. 2.5 years ago, he had planted this branch. Now, under Mount Sumeru's nurturing, the branch had transformed into a sapling. Its trunk shimmered with a weave of golden and jade mist, nurturing a rich vitality. Yet, beside the tall and majestic Mount Sumeru tree king, it seemed quite unremarkable. Master, the voice of Mount Sumeru was ethereal and misty, like a gentle breeze or white clouds. It signified that the sapling had been nurtured into a coexisting spiritual plant, reaching the level of a third-rank heaven and earth spiritual plant. But without further nurturing from itself, it would be impossible to advance. It's fine, as long as it has reached the third rank, that's enough. Source, web novel. Updated on N0 New 0. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing's face revealed a hint of a smile. In his view, as long as it could be used for the cultivation of the heavenly longevity technique, that was already sufficient. As for further growth, he did not need to consider it for the moment. By the way, Mount Sumeru, have you had any enhancement yourself? Lu Changxing continued to inquire of Mount Sumeru. Sarch * the novel, F. Iyer. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. He had given almost all the royal jelly to it and wanted to know if, aside from the coexisting spiritual plant, it had gained any advancement. Whoosh! A burst of white brilliance flew out from the Mount Sumeru tree and materialized into a dreamlike, faint figure beneath the tree. Seeing this ephemeral figure, Lu Changxing was startled. He had asked if there had been any advancements, but what did turning into a sister mean? He was at a loss for words to describe the figure before him. It was extremely beautiful, but different from most of the women he had seen. Just like the voice of Mount Sumeru, it was tender and pure, elusive and dreamlike. A pair of eyes like golden jade shone brilliantly, yet not at all glaring, emanating a compassion for all living beings, a Buddha nature that made one's mental spirit calm and peaceful just by looking into them. Her hair, as pale as gold and jade, hung heavily to her waist, emitting a soft luster, adorned only with 2 bright and flawless green leaves. Her dress was very simple and elegant without any accessories, just a plain golden and jade luminous skirt. The skirt was long, seeming very faint and ethereal at the hem, nearly invisible, floating in the air like a spirit, appearing sacred and dreamlike. Master, Mount Sumeru spoke, its voice as elusive as white clouds, very soft, now with a touch more tenderness than before. Hiss! Lu Changxing couldn't help but shiver as Mount Sumeru called him in such a form. Originally, he thought Mount Sumeru's voice was quite nice, with a compassionate, melancholic quality, like an elusive celestial breeze. But now, as it had transformed into such a sacred and pure figure and called him master, he even felt as if his own heart and soul were somewhat sullied. Subsequently, Mount Sumeru indicated that it had a certain advancement in cultivation level after consuming the royal jelly. But, because it had been nurturing the coexisting spiritual plant, the improvement was not significant. However, its spirituality had improved significantly, and its primordial spirit was able to manifest this spiritual body, also becoming much smarter than before. Smarter by quite a bit, Lu Changxing heard this, his mouth twitching slightly, not feeling much of an increase in intelligence from it. However, to give credit where credit was due, Mount Sumeru's aesthetic sense wasn't bad. He even saw a hint of Lu Miaoge, Xiao Xia, Hong Lian, Su Ruyan, and Ling Zixiao in its appearance and figure. He wondered if the long-term presence of these ladies in the Mount Sumeru cave heaven had influenced Mount Sumeru's transformation. Will you look like this once you transform in the future? Lu Changxing inquired subconsciously. Although Mount Sumeru, as a true spirit-level demon plant, would find it exceptionally difficult to transform, he didn't know why he somehow felt a faint sense of anticipation inside. I can transform, Mount Sumeru will listen to the master. Mount Sumeru stated. While there was now a tenderness in its words, its countenance remained unchanged, retaining its holy and pure demeanor. A pair of ancient, undisturbed, compassionate golden eyes seemed to make sinners lay down their butchering knives and repent. Forget it, don't manifest your spiritual body usually. Lu Changxing sighed. Being stared at by Mount Sumeru brought with it a sense of sanctity, making him feel absurdly irreverent. He felt his thoughts were too tainted, quite sinful, indeed. Yes, master. Hearing this, the figure of Mount Sumeru dissipated and returned to the Mount Sumeru tree. Tisk, so much for being a lot smarter. Lu Changxing shook his head, then entered the interior of the Mount Sumeru cave heaven. As soon as he entered the cave heaven, he saw Su Ruyan with her fire-red hair done up, wearing a red dress, helping a toddler take wobbly steps. Maybe it was because his heart had been cleansed by Mount Sumeru just now, but seeing this scene made Lu Changxing feel a deep sense of guilt. Young master. Su Ruyan immediately approached and bowed to Lu Changxing on seeing him. Although she had taken preserving youth pills in her early years, they had only been first and second grade. Having spent 7 years in this Mount Sumeru cave heaven and now having borne a child, she looked much more matured. The cold pride that used to be on her face had long since turned into a look of gentle obedience. Call me husband from now on. Lu Changxing sighed softly, lifted her shoulders, and spoke gently. Yes, husband. Su Rian's delicate body trembled slightly, shyly uttering the words. What's his name? Lu Changxing crouched down, looking at the toddler learning to walk in front of him. The child did not have the red hair like Su Rian, quite normal actually. It seemed that being a Foundation establishment great cultivator, his genes obviously dominated over the changes that came with Su Rian's cultivation technique. I was waiting for you, husband, to name him. Su Rian said with lowered eyes and subdued voice. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 829, Mount Sumeru's Spirit Body, Distributing Spirit Plants. Since that's the case, let's call him Lu Qinsha. Lu Changxing looked at his son, pondered for a moment, then said softly. Qinsha. Su Rian heard the name, thought of dust and gravel, and felt that the name was not auspicious, too humble. But she naturally had no words to refute Lu Changxing's choice. She could only nod and respond, thank you, husband. You've been delayed in your qi refinement for so long, it's time for a breakthrough to the Foundation establishment. Lu Changxing picked up the child and whispered. Then, he looked towards the system space. With a slight movement of his mental spirit, he extracted the heavenly demon phoenix from the system. Suddenly, a large bird that appeared golden, as if adorned with flame-like patterns, emerged. This heavenly demon phoenix was still in its juvenile stage, approximately the size of an adult peacock, majestic with a touch of naivety. Husband, Su Rian, having heard this, gazed upon the heavenly demon phoenix before her, her body trembling abruptly, her hands covering her mouth, nearly bursting into tears. Happiness had come too fast, too unexpectedly. Years of effort, dreams, expectations, and perseverance came to simple fruition at this moment. Over the years, though she submitted to Lu Changxing, she often regretted her rash actions of the past and questioned if it was worth it. But the words of her parents, her family, Ling Zixiao, and Senior Red Lotus kept her steadfastly persevering. Now, she finally reached this day. The day when Lu Changxing recognized her. At this moment, her heart was filled with endless gratitude towards Lu Changxing. Within this gratitude, however, were several complex emotions. There was admiration and awe, submission and reverence, and the humiliation from her early years of serving Lu Changxing. Thank you, husband. Su Rian bowed in a salute. Although Lu Changxing now allowed her to address him as husband, she still clearly positioned herself. Aware of the other's fearsomeness, she believed she could give herself, perhaps even take back. Indeed, these days you should cultivate well, and I will have someone take care of the child. Lu Changxing gently stroked Su Rian's soft and shiny red hair and spoke. Yes, husband. Su Rian responded upon hearing this, looking at the heavenly demon phoenix before her. Through the beast technique, she could clearly sense that the bloodline grade of this heavenly demon phoenix was not merely of heaven rank, even subtly surpassing the cold blue dark turtle she had before. Furthermore, her two current pet beasts, the fire python tiger and the heavenly fire mink, were both of fire attribute. If she continued to integrate with fire attribute demon beasts, it could significantly enhance the power of her Foundation establishment's life-bound spiritual fire, the beast spirit true fire. Moreover, considering pet beast combinations, with two terrestrial beasts, she also needed a flying spiritual beast. At this moment, the heavenly demon phoenix given by Lu Changxing, despite still being a juvenile, was practically a perfect fit for her current needs. How many heaven-rank demon beasts does he possess? Su Rian couldn't help but sneak a peek at Lu Changxing. She believed Lu Changxing knew her needs, therefore he selected such a demon beast for her. It wasn't just her. The Hong Lian within the ancient beast taming charm in the sea of consciousness felt the heavenly demon phoenix and woke up, astonished. This must be a phoenix bird with true spirit phoenix bloodline. Hong Lian exclaimed. Her affiliated power, Vermilion Bird Palace, had legends claiming its founder had connections with the true spirit vermilion bird. Thus, their lineage was quite knowledgeable about spiritual birds like phoenix and vermilion bird. Sarch * the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. True Spirit Phoenix. Su Ruyan was amazed upon hearing this. She knew that any connection to true spirits like the phoenix or vermilion bird was extraordinary. The future of the demon beast, once it activates the trace of bloodline within, could soar to the heavens. Immediately, she saw Lu Changxing leaving with the child, so she took a deep breath, hugged the heavenly demon phoenix before her, and entered the Changxing Hall. She began to bond with the beast technique, intending to raise this heavenly demon phoenix as her life-bound beast. It is said that a short parting is sweeter than a new marriage. Having been away for over 2 years, Lu Changxing naturally had to love his wives and concubines well. Over the next few days, he engaged in nights of passionate battle, countless entanglements, experiences so passionate and entwined that they are better left untold to others. If Lu Changxing hadn't been robust, an ordinary person truly couldn't have endured. One must admit, having a wife and concubines does require sufficient capability. After loving his wives and concubines, Lu Changxing also thought about getting down to business. He gave the abyssal ghoul blossom and the coexisting spiritual plants from Mount Sumeru to Lu Miaohuan and Chuzhenjin. Casually, he checked on the condition and cultivation progress of his children. Father. At this time, Lu Pingan found Lu Changxing. He reported his breakthrough to the second level of the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art and his mastery of the Baoge method. 6th level Energy Refinement, 2nd level 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing knew his son wanted to go out for experiential training. Through the system, he had long been aware of his son Lu Pingan's breakthrough to the 6th level of Energy Refinement and the breakthrough of the 100 Refinements Treasure Body Art. He was just waiting for his own return, waiting for his approval before setting out for training. Do you have any plans or ideas for your travels? Lu Changxing asked his son. I'm not sure. I want to visit Qinyan Market, and if it's further, I might consider visiting Zhouxiao Immortal City. Lu Pingan scratched his head and grinned. Qinyan Market, Zhouxiao Immortal City. Lu Changxing pondered a moment upon hearing this, then nodded agreement to his son's request for travel. Children and grandchildren have their own fortunes. The child was grown, and what they wished to do was up to them. Keeping them at home like flowers was clearly not feasible. He couldn't possibly cultivate all his children at home himself. They needed to make a bit of effort themselves, and then he would give them a push. Thinking that he had not visited Rui Prefecture for a long time, Lu Changxing decided to make a trip there later to visit his wives and children. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 830, Mount Sumeru Spirit Body, Distributing Spirit Plants. Lu Pingan immediately spoke out, allowing Lu Pingan to accompany him when the time came. Yes, Dad. Lu Pingan listened and nodded in agreement. After Lu Changxing had swiftly dealt with his children's situation at home, he called Lu Miaohuan and Chuzhenjin over. Husband, what's wrong? The two women asked Lu Changxing. You'll find out soon. Lu Changxing smiled and led the two women to the summit of Blue Cloud Peak. What a beautiful tree! Both women exclaimed in awe upon seeing the Mount Sumeru tree. Blue Cloud Peak summit was a forbidden area for the Lu family, hidden by the inverted 5 elements formation, so they had never been here before and had never seen the Mount Sumeru tree king. Hee, this is our family's protective spirit tree. Lu Changxing smiled but didn't introduce too much about the Mount Sumeru tree king to the two women. After all, they would naturally come to know these soon. He pointed to a solitary and inconspicuous golden sapling beside the Mount Sumeru tree and said, Huan, Jinjin, this sapling is a heaven and earth spiritual plant. Ah, this is a 3rd-rank spirit plant. Chuzhenjin slightly crouched down, looking at the coexisting spiritual plant in front of her with some suspicion. Although she hadn't seen many third-rank spirit plants, she knew that third-rank spirit plants were known as heaven and earth spiritual plants and were extraordinary. However, thinking about Lu Miao's luminous treasure tree, she felt this little sapling seemed quite nice too. After all, in her eyes, Lu Miao's luminous treasure tree indeed looked a bit ugly. This sapling was quite attractive. Lu Miaohuan also examined the small sapling in front of her, wondering about Lu Changsheng's intention. "Husband, what is this spirit tree called?" Chu Zhenjin carefully touched the sapling and asked. "What is it called?" Lu Changsheng was momentarily stumped. After all, this sapling was a coexisting spiritual plant with Mount Sumeru, and it didn't have a name. Should it also be called a Mount Sumeru tree? He laughed and said, "This tree doesn't have a name yet. Since Zhenjin you asked, you should name it. I have prepared 2 spiritual plants this time, intending to give one to each of you and Huanhuan for cultivating the heavenly longevity technique. Of these 2 spiritual plants, I think this tree suits Zhenjin better." Lu Changsheng said so. "Ah, husband already has 2 spiritual plants." Chu Zhenjin was pleasantly surprised upon hearing this, her eyes shimmering with admiration. Initially, she hadn't felt much when she learned about the heavenly longevity technique. But seeing the changes in Lu Miaoyun, it was impossible to say she didn't feel envious. After all, she herself knew that only if she succeeded in cultivation, she would be able to accompany her husband and children forever. Lu Miaohuan, too, was stunned. After all, she knew that Lu Changsheng hadn't gone anywhere when accompanying her and her sister outside. How suddenly did he get 2 heaven and earth spiritual plants? "That's right, the other one is inside," Lu Changsheng smiled. "Inside?" The 2 women exchanged puzzled looks and surveyed their surroundings. The next moment, they saw a golden door appear in front of the Mount Sumeru tree. "Come on, let's go in," Lu Changsheng said softly. The 3 of them entered the Mount Sumeru cave heaven. "Wow! Husband, this is..." Chu Zhenjin and Lu Miaohuan were astonished as they looked at the scene before them. "I wondered why I didn't see the palace just now." "Husband, where do you, Sister Miaoga, and Sister Ling live? So there's such a big space inside the tree." Chu Zhenjin looked around Mount Sumeru cave heaven with amazement. Lu Miaohuan was relatively calmer than Chu Zhenjin, not making a fuss, but she also looked around with a surprised expression. "This is the 2nd heaven and earth spiritual plant." Lu Changsheng led the 2 women to the side of the spiritual spring and pointed to the abyssal ghoul blossom. On regular days, the abyssal ghoul blossom was in a dormant state, dull in appearance, with only the flower on the ground. Now, as Lu Changsheng approached, the flower gently swayed, blooming with a charming luster, extremely beautiful and enchanting. "What a beautiful flower!" Chu Zhenjin and Lu Miaohuan were captivated by the beauty of the abyssal ghoul blossom in front of them. Indeed, the current state of the abyssal ghoul blossom was very beautiful. "This flower looks beautiful now but is actually quite terrifying," Lu Changsheng said so. "Terrifying?" The 2 women did not understand the meaning of his words. Huanhuan, Zhenjin. Sarch * The Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. At that moment, Lu Miaoga heard the sounds and walked out of Changsheng Hall. She was surprised to see Lu Changsheng had brought the 2 women to Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven, since Lu Changsheng had said that it was better for as few people as possible to know about Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven, so she hadn't even told her sister. "Sister Miaoga, sister," the 3 called out to Lu Miaoga. "Hee, I plan to use this abyssal ghoul blossom for Huanhuan to cultivate the heavenly longevity technique." Lu Changsheng looked at his wife, Lu Miaoga, and spoke. "Huanhuan using this to cultivate the heavenly longevity technique." Lu Miaoga was startled upon hearing this. She had seen the abyssal ghoul blossom in action, swallowing a false core immortal whole, a terrifying scene indeed. She hadn't expected Lu Changsheng to actually plan on using such a terrifying demon plant for her sister to cultivate the heavenly longevity technique. "Huanhuan, you should take a look at the true appearance of this flower before deciding." Lu Changsheng nodded, continuing to speak. Then, he asked the 3 women to step back a little to reveal the true form of the abyssal ghoul blossom. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 831, Auspicious Tree, Li Family Sisters. CTH novel _fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. SSS, SSS, SSS. But beside the spiritual eye spring, the abyssal ghoul blossom kept swaying and blooming with a beautiful and bewitchingly charming luster. As the stalks grew, a series of roots, covered with dark red thorns, broke through the soil next to them, like venomous snakes, gradually filling the air with the scent of blood. When the abyssal ghoul blossom had grown to almost 3 meters tall, its buds that were on the verge of blooming gradually opened up, resembling a deep abyssal black hole, capturing the soul and hiding endless horrors within. Chu Jinjin, upon witnessing this scene, had already tightly clung to Lu Changsheng's arm, a bit frightened. Lu Miaohuan was much braver than Chu Jinjin, her beautiful eyes carefully examining the abyssal ghoul blossom in front of her. She knew that with Lu Changsheng here, the abyssal ghoul blossom would not harm her. "Husband, is this demon plant second rank?" Lu Miaohuan asked. She could sense a strong demon qi emanating from this demon plant. "That's correct, this abyssal ghoul blossom is currently a second-rank demon plant, and as for its grade, it has already surpassed that of ordinary heaven and earth spiritual plants. So, using this demon plant to cultivate the heaven and earth longevity technique might bring some changes. I cannot be certain, but it won't be dangerous. If you don't like it, Huan, husband can find you another spirit plant later." Lu Changsheng held his wife's slender, jade-like hand and spoke softly. According to his estimation, cultivating the heaven and earth longevity technique using the abyssal ghoul blossom would surely be more effective than using ordinary heaven and earth spiritual plants. The only problem with using a demon plant for cultivation was its inherent nature. Like contracting a demon beast or refining goo insects, it was very troublesome and dangerous. A minor qi refinement cultivator, attempting to refine a second-rank demon plant into a life-bound spiritual root and erase its consciousness, would find it nearly impossible. Lu Changsheng dared to do this because he obtained the demon plant through a system lottery, so he wasn't worried about the demon plant backlashing. However, he was the only one willing to use such a rare heaven-rank bloodline demon plant for his wife's cultivation method. "Husband, I like it," Lu Miaohuan immediately said clearly upon hearing this. The abyssal ghoul blossom in front of her was somewhat intimidating, but in her view, it wasn't too bad. She even thought that with such a variation, its abilities were quite decent. She and Chu Jinjin already knew a lot about the heaven and earth longevity technique through what Lu Miaoyan had told them. They knew that once they successfully refined it, they could not stray too far from their spirit plant or leave by Lake Mountain. In the future, they would also be unable to cultivate on their own and could only improve their cultivation level by nurturing the spirit plant. Also, all the spiritual power inside their bodies would be transformed into the vegetative power of the heaven and earth longevity technique. This meant that their mana would have basically no offensive power, leaning more toward life cultivation, nurturing the physical body and soul. The only function was to be able to control their own life-bound spiritual root, which meant the refined heaven and earth spiritual plant. Thus, seeing the abyssal ghoul blossom and thinking of refining it as her life-bound spiritual root, and controlling the demon plant, might also give her a certain fighting power. If her family encountered danger in the future, like the previous attack from Xiahou Money, she might be able to help. Of course, it was also the normal appearance of the abyssal ghoul blossom that she really liked. If it were as terrifying as its usual appearance, she would have to think twice. For example, the luminous treasure tree belonging to Lu Miaoyun was considered ugly by both Chu Jinjin and herself. "Husband, what's inside this flower, can it open?" Lu Miaohuan looked at the abyssal ghoul blossom, which was like an abyss and not yet fully opened, and asked out of curiosity. "This flower is called the abyssal ghoul blossom, aptly named because it contains a prison within." Lu Changsheng began to introduce the abilities of the abyssal ghoul blossom. During his words, he held Chu Jinjin, who was a bit timid, in his arms to prevent her from being scared, and then asked the abyssal ghoul blossom to reveal its final appearance. The partially bloomed flower bud opened up completely. Inside, the stamens were like scarlet tentacles, covered with thorn-like teeth, and the mucus resembled blood, exuding a strong scent of blood. Even Lu Miaohuan, looking at the fully bloomed abyssal ghoul blossom, couldn't help but be shocked, feeling as if it was a true demon. If it weren't for the fact that she knew this was the spirit plant prepared by Lu Changxing for her, she would not dare to stand in front of it like this. "Husband, I want this one," Lu Miaohuan said without hesitation. "Good, Huan, I'm glad you like it," Lu Changxing responded with a smile upon hearing his wife's words. As he spoke, the abyssal ghoul blossom in front of him returned to its original enchantingly beautiful appearance. He was actually quite looking forward to his wife Lu Miaohuan refining the abyssal ghoul blossom as her life-bound spiritual root. After all, the abyssal ghoul blossom was a demon plant, different from ordinary heaven and earth spiritual plants. Moreover, after Lu Miaoyan succeeded in cultivating the heaven and earth longevity technique, he gained some characteristics of the luminous treasure tree after their dual cultivation. That is to say, after dual cultivation, his eyes became clearer, as if they were wiped with luminous sweet dew. This made him curious whether he could obtain some of the characteristics of the abyssal ghoul blossom if Lu Miaohuan were to refine it as her life-bound spiritual root. Lu Miaoga, who was standing by, didn't say much upon seeing this. She knew that the abyssal ghoul blossom was quite horrifying, but she also knew that Lu Changxing would not let her sister be in danger. In that case, let's settle on these two spiritual plants. Lu Changxing pinched his two delicate wives' soft hands and spoke. Then he looked at Lu Miaohuan and said, "By the way, Huan, I plan to have Mount Sumer transplant the abyssal ghoul blossom to Lake Heart Island. The abyssal ghoul blossom in Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven required a significant amount of spiritual energy and mana from Mount Sumeru. Now that Lake Heart Island had a second-grade spiritual vein, he naturally intended to transplant the abyssal ghoul blossom there." "Okay, fine." Lu Miaohuan nodded in agreement, unconcerned. At this moment, Lu Changxing turned to his petite wife in his arms and said, "Jinjin, you'll refine the spirit plant outside. Right, have you thought of a name for this tree? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 832, Auspicious Tree, Li Family Sisters. Chu Jinjin showed a thoughtful expression upon hearing this. After contemplating for a moment, she raised her head and crisply said to Lu Changxing, "My lord, how about we call it the auspicious tree, representing good fortune and a beautiful happiness?" After speaking, she looked at Lu Miaohuan and Lu Miaoga, wanting to know what they thought of the name. Not bad, this name is good, auspicious and everything as one wishes." Lu Changxing smiled broadly as he patted her head, praising aloud. "This name sounds lovely." Lu Miaoga also sported a gentle smile and voiced her praise. Upon hearing these words, Chu Zhenqian's face immediately broke into a joyful smile. Immediately after, Lu Changxing called Ling Zixiao over, preparing to visit Lake Heart Island. He had been home for so many days and had not yet visited Lake Heart Island to see what was going on. Several people walked out of Mount Sumeru Cave Heaven and came to Lake Heart Island. The entire small island was isolated by a formation, misty and indistinct. This was just a simple formation, without any protective effects, only meant to block external surveillance. However, upon entering, Lu Changxing felt that while the spiritual energy here had reached second rank, it was quite forced. It was vaguely between first grade and second rank. This is the wife's effort to connect the water veins beneath Bai Shui Lake with the spirit vein beneath Baiyun Peak, Ling Zixiao began to explain. Currently, Bai Lake Mountain and Baiyun Peak were major sources of spiritual energy, not only possessing the Mount Sumer Tree King. There was also her, Lu Changxing, Lu Miaoga, Bai Ling, for foundation establishment cultivators, barely enough. Therefore, she directed most of the spiritual energy from Bai Shui Lake Spirit Vein towards Baiyun Peak. "Zixiao, you've worked hard," Lu Changxing said to Ling Zixiao. He had previously considered this problem. With more and more people in his household reaching foundation establishment, and the cultivation of spirit plants, it was inevitable to face a shortage of spiritual energy. Now, the advancement of Bai Shui Lake to second rank temporarily resolved this issue. But in another 10 or 20 years, as the children gradually reached foundation establishment, if their own spirit vein could not advance further to third rank, the problem would definitely arise again. By then, they might need to find a new spirit land and establish a branch family. Sister Ling. Sister Ling. Just then, from a courtyard, 2 young women emerged and called out crisply towards Ling Zixiao in the sky. One was 16 or 17, the other 23 or 24 years old, both with clear eyes and white teeth, like flowers, very beautiful. The two had similar features, probably sisters. Xingrua, Xingyu, what are you doing here? Lu Changxing was a bit startled and surprised when he saw the 2 women. He recognized them. They were the sisters from Treasure Elixir Pavilion, whom he had temporarily stayed with when he first went to Zhouxiao Immortal City, Li Xingrua and Li Xingyu. Initially, when he met the sisters, he thought about having them purchase and procure some materials on his behalf in Zhouxiao Immortal City. However, since he had Ling Zixiao for this connection, the matter of purchasing in Zhouxiao Immortal City was left to Ling Zixiao. Thus, he had not been in contact with the sisters. After all, he was just a passerby in their lives. He didn't want to maintain too much contact and affect their lives. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the 2 women had come to his home. Li Xingrua and Li Xingyu were startled when they heard Lu Changsheng's words. Then Li Xingrua looked at Lu Changsheng, her face showing surprise, somewhat uncertain as she said, You are Senior Yi? Senior Yi? Lu Miaoga and Lu Miaohuan both looked at their own husband, thinking to themselves when he had been stirring up young girls outside. Cough cough, it's me. Lu Changsheng, under multiple beautiful gazes, softly coughed and nodded in acknowledgement. Then he looked towards Ling Zixiao. Without having to guess, he knew that the presence of the 2 women here was related to Ling Zixiao. He speculated that Ling Zixiao and the 2 women must have been in correspondence over the past few years, hence the reason for inviting them to Bai Lake Mountain. Thinking that Ling Zixiao hadn't breathed a word of this for so many days, leaving him somewhat unprepared, clearly did this on purpose. Tonight, he definitely must properly discipline her. My lord, Xingrua and Xingyu are here at my invitation and are currently visiting noble servants of Bai Lake Mountain. Xingrua is in charge of alchemy, Xingyu is an appraiser. With her black hair elegantly arranged and dressed in a deep blue gown, wearing a gentle smile, Ling Zixiao spoke gracefully and calmly. Welcome to Bai Lake Mountain. Lu Changxing descended from the air, looked warmly at the 2 sisters in front of him, his demeanor as welcoming as spring. My real name is Lu Changxing, Yi Fan was a pseudonym I used before. Greetings to Mountain Master Lu. The 2 women, seeing the figure in a green robe with a handsome and ethereal demeanor, called out somewhat nervously. Hee, no need to be so formal and polite, I was out on a matter before, and only returned these past few days. Lu Changsheng's face showed a slight smile, he laughed gently, his voice warm as he said. How did you come here? He continued to ask. We had some troubles in Immortal City, then upon receiving an invitation from Sister Ling, we took the Green Cloud spirit ship here. Li Xingrua now spoke less restrainedly, clear eyes and soft voice, she said. Sar the Novel Fire. Any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Troubles. Lu Changsheng's heart paused upon hearing this, he smiled and nodded. I see, now that you are here, feel at ease. I have some matters to attend to now but will catch up later. I will welcome you later and apologize for concealing my identity from you before. Now that his wife was behind watching, it wasn't appropriate to keep chatting with the 2 women. Senior Yi, you are too kind. Lord Mountain Master, please go ahead. The 2 women quickly nodded in response. In this situation, they also felt somewhat awkward facing Lu Changxing, not knowing what to say. Zixiao, where have you planned the area for the spirit plants? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 833, Auspicious Tree, Li Family Sisters. Lu Changxing looked at Ling Zixiao and asked out loud. Right after that, Ling Zixiao led Lu Changxing and the others to a central estate. At this time, Lu Changxing also gave his wife a brief introduction to the Li Xingrua and Li Xingyu sisters. I went to Jianghu Immortal City before I left, Lu Changxing spoke up and said. Truly fitting of our mountain lord of the Lu family, wherever you go, people adore you. Lu Miaohuan huffed softly and pursed her red lips, speaking in a sarcastic tone. Hee hee. Lu Changxing heard her words and didn't retort, he just smiled, wrapped his arm around Lu Miaohuan's slender waist, and warmly said, Huan, where are you planning to plant the abyssal ghoul blossom? I'm fine with anywhere, Lord Husband, you arrange it. Lu Miaohuan said out loud. As it pertained to a second-order demon plant, she also didn't understand. The spiritual energy is abundant in this estate, it's all suitable for planting. It mainly depends on where you, Huan, think is convenient. Ling Zixiao said this from the side. In that case, why not plant it in the back garden here? Lu Miaohuan looked around at the situation and finally pointed to the front, where there was a riot of blooms and vibrant colors in the back garden. The abyssal ghoul blossom was also a flower and would be quite suitable in this garden. If anyone who didn't know better dared to come and stir up trouble, they would be turned into fertilizer for the garden. Alright, since my Huan has spoken, what about here? Lu Changxing pointed to a specific spot in the garden. After confirming the location, he turned into a streak of escape light and soared to the sky, flying towards Blue Cloud Peak. He then instructed Mount Sumeru to transplant the abyssal ghoul blossom there. While Lake Heart Island was also within the range Mount Sumeru could cover, in most cases, Mount Sumeru would not spread its consciousness throughout the entire Bihu Mountain. Yes, Master. Mount Sumeru's voice responded, ethereal and soft. Then they saw. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, mist surged above the Bihu Mountain Great Formation, where countless azure and pale golden spiritual lights intertwined and flowed. Soon after, a pale golden beam of light fell upon Lake Heart Island. Master, it's done. Mount Sumeru's voice arose in Lu Changxing's mind. Good. Lu Changxing immediately flew back to Lake Heart Island. Only to see in the back garden, the abyssal ghoul blossom had been serenely planted. Yet amidst all the gorgeous blooming flowers, the abyssal ghoul blossom still stood out conspicuously. It was so striking that one could instantly spot this beautiful and bewitching flower. Huan, from now on, this abyssal ghoul blossom is in your care. Lu Changxing said to his wife, Lu Miaohuan. Thank you, Lord Husband. A look of joy and anticipation appeared on Lu Miaohuan's face. Jinjin, if you need to pay homage and refine the auspicious tree, just call on Mount Sumeru, and it can take you directly to the summit of Blue Cloud Peak or bring you down. Lu Changxing said to Jinjin like this. Although she was at the 6th level of energy refinement and could fly using artifacts, there was the inverted 5 elements formation above, and Jinjin flying by herself also had some fear of heights. So he let her directly call on Mount Sumeru for transportation. Thank you, Lord Husband. Jinjin, holding on to Lu Changxing's arm, nodded and answered. If you have any doubts during the cultivation process of the heavenly longevity technique, you can ask Miaoyan for more advice. If there are any problems, come to me first, understand? Lu Changxing continued. The abyssal ghoul blossom possessed spiritual intelligence, so it could directly inquire if it encountered any problems during cultivation. Although the auspicious tree couldn't directly ask questions, it could be understood through Mount Sumeru. Got it. Jinjin and Lu Miaohuan nodded in response, their faces revealing joyful smiles. After arranging the spirit plants for the two women, Lu Changxing took everyone back to the Lu family mansion to ask Ling Zixiao about the situation of Li Xingrua and Li Xingyu. Facing this matter, Ling Zixiao did not hide anything and indicated that she indeed had correspondence with the two women in the past years. Inviting the two women over was also because she knew that their situation in the Jianghu Immortal City wasn't too good. Although Li Xingrua was a top-tier alchemist, the sisters had no backing in the Immortal City. Under such circumstances, carrying a large sum of money and with her younger sister Li Xingyu being a vulnerable point, many cultivators in the Immortal City had the sisters in their sights. This also included their only family behind them. At first, it was fine, with Lu Changxing as a deterrent being a second-order superior alchemist, along with some interpersonal relations from Ling Zixiao. But 4 years ago, a young master from a false core family took a fancy to the two sisters. In the face of this situation, Lu Changsheng's little fame from the Treasure Elixir Pavilion in his early years was long gone and had no deterrence. The novel Fire. Net ** website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. And as for Ling Zixiao's connections, her friends were not likely to help much for this and merely notified Ling Zixiao about it. So after learning about it, Ling Zixiao thought it over and then invited the two women to Bihu Mountain. Xingrua may only be a first-grade top-tier alchemist, but as far as I know, she was already a top-tier alchemist 8 years ago, and she is only half a step away from second rank now. If Lord Husband were to guide and teach her, it shouldn't take long for her to advance to second rank, Ling Zixiao said. Speaking of which, she showed a somewhat teasing smile and said, "Moreover, my lady, in the letters, I did mention Lord Husband's circumstances. Their willingness to come to Bihu Mountain shows that they trust and have a good impression of Lord Husband. Just as long as Lord Husband takes good care of them on a daily basis, and later on you reopen the Treasure Elixir Pavilion for them, won't they be utterly devoted to you, my lord?" Cough cough. What are you saying? I just regard them as juniors. You didn't even talk to me about this in advance. Lu Changxing was somewhat speechless upon hearing Ling Zixiao's words. He wondered if in his wife's eyes, he was the sort of person to expect things to fall into place upon a single meeting. Lord Husband doesn't even thank me, and now you're blaming me instead? Ling Zixiao glared at Lu Changxing and said with irritation. All right, I was wrong." Lu Changxing immediately spoke to apologize. Regardless of his own thoughts, Li Xingrua was young yet able to become a first-grade top-tier alchemist, which showed that she had excellent talent for alchemy. If he were to guide her well, it likely wouldn't take long for her to become a second-order alchemist. It would naturally be a great thing for the family to have another second-order alchemist. After all, it wasn't easy for a typical foundation establishment family to employ a second-order alchemist to serve them. And currently, the consumption of elixir medicines in his house was not small. Now, it's about time to reveal to others that I am a second-order alchemist, Lu Changxing thought to himself at that moment. He had already had rumors circulating about him neglecting his proper duties to research alchemy, puppets, and other skills. Many years had passed, and he felt he could take on another title as an alchemy master. After his chat with Ling Zixiao, Lu Changxing held a simple family banquet that evening, inviting Li Xingrua and Li Xingyu. Having not met for many years, and with Lu Changxing having transitioned from the former senior yi to master of Bihu Mountain, the sisters were somewhat restrained. However, with the familiar Ling Zixiao and Lu Miaoyun present, the atmosphere became much more relaxed. During the banquet, Lu Changxing conversed casually, asking about the sisters' circumstances over the years to start the conversation. Then he discussed alchemy-related matters with Li Xingrua. Indeed, when discussing certain situations in the Immortal City and the topic of alchemy, the sisters became much warmer towards Lu Changxing. After the feast, Lu Changxing hinted as much and sent the sisters back, indicating that he would teach them alchemy later on. Through this simple family banquet, their relationship naturally became much closer. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 834, Ling Zixiao, Lord, how about we have a child? Late at night. Afterwards. On the white jade bed, Ling Zixiao's jade-like complexion was flushed like the rosy clouds of dawn. It took her a while to catch her breath, her beautiful eyes looking seductive and misty as she glanced sideways at Lu Changxing and said, "My lord really knows how to hold a grudge." Her black silky hair was disheveled casually, with a few strands falling onto her chest, showcasing her lofty peaks which had clearly been tormented. Leaving on her skin, pale as white jade, the flushed marks of kisses and grips, provided a certain sense of ravished beauty. How could that be? Your husband has simply been too long without accompanying Zixiao. Could it be that your husband has hurt you? Lu Changxing gently stroked his wife's black silky hair, his hand caressing her snowy white and jade-like rounded legs, delicately beautiful in their curved shape. "My lord, shall we have a child?" At this moment, Ling Zixiao tenderly touched her slightly swollen belly and softly inquired. Now that her body was gradually recovering, the thought of having a child came to her mind. On one hand, Lu Changxing loved children. On the other hand, after so many years in Bai Lake Mountain, seeing everyone with children, she couldn't help but entertain the thought as well. She wanted to have a child of her own with Lu Changxing. Especially this time, with Lu Changxing, Lu Miaoge, and Lu Miaohuan away, she felt somewhat lonely sitting on Bai Lake Mountain alone. She felt that the vast Bai Lake Mountain had no one truly close to her apart from Lu Changxing. "If Zixiao wishes it, your husband naturally is happy to oblige," Lu Changxing said with a happy smile upon hearing her words. Although he wished that Ling Zixiao could bear him several children, if she truly did not want to, he would never force her. After all, over the years, what Ling Zixiao had done for Bai Lake Mountain, in terms of personal value, far exceeded her value for bearing children. But having heard Ling Zixiao bring it up herself, his heart was filled with joy. Both of them were foundation establishment cultivators. He himself with a second-grade spiritual root possessed a variety of spiritual bodies. Ling Zixiao with a third-grade spirit root, possessed a top-level spiritual body. Should the two bear offspring, their talent would undoubtedly be extraordinary, possibly even resulting in a birth of a spiritual body. Moreover, he had a spirit melding pill in his system space. This elixir medicines could ensure the child would have a spirit root and even enhance the quality of the spiritual root. He had not used that pill, specifically planning to give it to Ling Zixiao. If we are to have a child, naturally we must put in much effort. Lu Changxing chuckled, grasped the delicate jade feet, and rolled over. "How dare you, your concubine, can't take it anymore, go find Miaoge." MMH. Well, go together. 3 days later. Lu Changxing took his son Lu Pingan and his nephew Hong Xuanji to Rui Prefecture. As his son was about to travel far, Lu Changxing was not stingy. Not only did he provide the family standard substitute talisman, but he also gave 10 first-grade high-quality talismans and 3 top-level talismans. As for a second-rank puppet, he did not provide one. Mainly because he didn't have spare time at home to create a second-rank puppet for this trip. Besides, it was not feasible to have a second-rank puppet for every child, it was too extravagant, and he could not afford it. Arriving at Rui County City in the Lu residence, Lu Changxing saw many unfamiliar children. Grandfather. 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 His wives, children, and numerous young ones called out to him. The oldest child, the eldest grandson of the Lu family, Lu Xianming, was already 12 years old. But apart from a few grandchildren, he had not met most of them. Lu Changxing felt quite emotional about this. After a brief gathering, he chatted casually with his son Lu Wuyu, inquiring about the current secular family situation. The now 32-year-old family head Lu Wuyu, with a beard, looked much more mature than his father. He told Lu Changxing that the secular side's business was gradually stabilizing and some Lu family disciples had split off. However, bearing children and practicing martial arts were ancestral mandates, and even those who split off would carry them out. Moreover, all split-off families would send their 6-year-old children to the main family each year to check for a spiritual root. Lu Changxing nodded in response to his son's respectful and earnest report, not saying much more. Because listening to this, he felt a mix of emotions and had no idea what to say. He simply told his son to write if anything came up at Bai Lake Mountain. Having stayed in Rui Prefecture for 7 days, Lu Changxing left with his nephew Hong Xuanji. He did not return to Bai Lake Mountain. Instead, he went to the Red Leaf Valley market to check on his son Lu Chuanjin. After arriving in the market, Lu Changxing did not visit his son Lu Chuanjin straight away. He first went to Red Leaf Peak to meet with Lu Yuanzhong and discussed family and marketplace conditions. When night fell, he asked the children in the market to come to the Lu family's courtyard to see him. Dad. Greetings, father. Currently, 8 Lu family's sons were managing businesses in the Red Leaf Valley marketplace, and upon seeing Lu Changxing standing tall in a green robe, with a commanding presence in the hall, they greeted him in unison. Lu Changxing turned around and looked at these children, inquiring about their well-being with concern. Although he was somewhat aware of the situation through Lu Miaoyun, as a father, he was still inclined to check in since he was there. After a short conversation, Lu Changxing looked at his son Lu Chuanjun and said, "The others may leave, Chuanjun stays." "Father, what is it?" Lu Chuanjun looked clear-cut and handsome in his green brocade robe. After these years of cultivating his character and managing the business, the killing aura he had upon returning from his travels had faded, leaving him with more of a scholarly elegance. "I heard from your mother that you have had some fortunes, and now it seems that those fortunes are quite good. You've reached the 9th level energy refinement without us noticing," Lu Changxing said with a smile to his son. Actually, Lu Quanzhen's cultivation level's aura was concealed by some treasure. Sar the Oval Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 835, Ling Zixiao, Lord, shall we have a child? If he didn't utilize the spiritual eye technique to probe with his divine sense, he would normally not be able to discern the other party's cultivation level. So if it weren't for the system, he really wouldn't have known his son's situation for a while. This made Lu Changxing realize that his son's opportunities were much greater than he had imagined. Lu Chuanjun was stunned for a moment. Obviously, he didn't expect his cultivation to be seen through by his father at a glance. The soul-nurturing jade given to him by Uncle Chu Chang'an not only had the effect of nurturing the soul. It also had the effect of concealing the magic aura and divine sense probes. According to what his uncle said, unless a nascent soul cultivator used the spiritual eye technique to check, no one would be able to discern his cultivation level. But now, his own father had actually seen his 9th level energy refinement cultivation at a glance. This alarmed him. "Everyone has their own opportunities, and your father also has many," Lu Changxing said with a light chuckle and a calm and gentle manner. "The main reason I came here was to see how you are doing." Source, web novel. Com, updated on N0New0, Omicron. After all, the matter of the spiritual root is of great importance. You must be careful with such an opportunity and not get into any trouble. If you really get into any trouble, be sure to tell your father early and don't keep it to yourself, Lu Changxing said, smiling. "Father, my opportunity is related to Uncle." Lu Chuanjun looked up at his father's warm and handsome face and said in a low voice. Although he felt it was not good to discuss his uncle's matters, now that his father was aware, he had no intention of hiding his thoughts. "Uncle?" Lu Changsheng's brow furrowed upon hearing this. Due to his family's relationship with Jianghu Mountain, his children had many uncles from that side. But the uncle his son was talking about obviously couldn't be one of those from Jianghu Mountain. After all, most of those uncles were now not as good as his own son. "Uncle, Chu Chang'e?" Sar the Nafire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The name that Lu Changxing had almost forgotten popped into his mind, and he said with some disbelief. "Yes, that's right." Lu Chuanjun nodded. "He's still alive, and he even gave Chuanjun such a great opportunity?" A wave of shock and speculation filled Lu Changsheng's heart. He had stopped paying much attention to his cheap older brother-in-law when he learned that he might cultivate the demon path. Over the years, with no news, he had almost forgotten him, thinking that his brother-in-law had died. Unexpectedly, not only was the other party alive, but he was also living very well, capable of giving his own son such a heavenly opportunity. After all, the improvement of the spiritual root and his son's situation, even with the system at his side, could not help but alarm him. "Did your uncle come back for something?" Lu Changxing asked. Chu Jinjin was the kind of person who couldn't keep things to herself. She would tell him everything. So something like Chu Chang'e coming back would definitely not be kept from him by Chu Jinjin. Therefore, it's very likely that this older brother-in-law didn't meet and recognize Chu Jinjin, but only saw his own son. This gave him a sense of surprise and puzzlement. "Uncle just came back to see mother," Lu Chuanjun spoke out, detailing the general situation of his Uncle Chu Change's return. He indicated that his uncle mainly came to visit his mother, Zhinjin. It might have been inconvenient for him to go to Bihu Mountain, so he used some means to come to the Red Leaf Valley market and see him, afterward giving him some gifts. That's how his spiritual root was improved, and his cultivation broke through from the 6th level energy refinement to the 9th level. Heaven replenishing elixir. As Lu Changxing listened to his son's words, he learned the name of the elixir that improved the spiritual root. He had not heard of this pill before. He guessed it should belong to the 3rd order, or even 4th order elixirs. Father, although Uncle is a demonic path cultivator, in my interaction with Uncle, I feel there isn't much difference between the righteous and demonic paths. The distinction between righteous and demon is mainly in the person, not in the cultivation method. Just like when I traveled outside before, I encountered many people who were evil and full of sins. After finishing his words, Lu Qianjin immediately spoke in favor of his uncle, expressing his views on the demonic path, worried that his father might have objections to the demon path. This was also his current view on the righteous and demonic paths. The principle is indeed so. But our Jiang country belongs to the righteous forces, so we should still try to keep a clear boundary with the demonic path. About your uncle's matter and the cultivation techniques, they absolutely must not be known to others. As for this cultivation technique, if you like it and find it suitable, you can continue to cultivate it. If you don't like it, the family has other profound techniques, Lu Changxing said, pondering slightly. He held no particular prejudice against the demonic path. After all, his exposure to the demon path was far more serious than his son's. His son was only cultivating half of a technique related to the demonic path. He himself had directly taught his Dao companion demonic techniques, and in his Yin corpse bag, he was raising 2 refined corpses. Oh, and he had a daughter in the demonic sect, I understand, Lu Qianjin nodded in slight surprise. He didn't expect his father to be so open-minded, having not a hint of bias against the demonic path. He had not proactively spoken about Uncle Chu changes matters before for fear of the issue with the demon path. Father, among the treasures Uncle gave me, there was a fruit called the 5 elements spirit fruit. I have read in books that this 5 elements spirit fruit, also known as the golden core fruit, is of great help in breaking through from foundation establishment to core formation. I can't use it right now, so you can take it. Then, Lu Qianjin took out a jade box from the storage ring hanging around his neck, and said. He knew that his father was not as simple as he appeared. Otherwise, he would not have been able to discern his cultivation level at a glance. But thinking that his father had only a low-quality spiritual root, and having been unable to give the heaven-replenishing elixir to his father before, he took the initiative to bring out a 5 elements spirit fruit, hoping the other party could break through core formation. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 836, Ling Zixiao, Lord, shall we have a child? 5 elements spirit fruit. Lu Changxing was startled upon hearing this. He was well aware of the 5 elements spirit fruit. There was even a 5 elements fruit tree in his system space at the moment. But he had never imagined that among the treasures his cheap brother-in-law had given his son, there would actually be a 5 elements spirit fruit. You must know, this 5 elements spirit fruit is considered the top-grade core formation spiritual object, priceless, and extremely precious. Yet it was casually brought out by his own son now. Alright, I'll accept this 5 elements spirit fruit then. Lu Changxing was silent for a moment and couldn't resist the temptation of the 5 elements spirit fruit. Although he was a second-grade spiritual root, had perfectly achieved foundation establishment, possessed a supreme condensation elixir, 3 core formation spiritual objects, and was assisted by the Tai E life water technique, he only saw a 70% chance of successfully breaking through to core formation. Such a low success rate obviously wasn't satisfactory in Lu Changxing's eyes. Now with this 5 elements spirit fruit, his probability of core formation success wouldn't reach a full 100%. But it was close to 98%. Source, web novel. Updated on N0New0. Moreover, the most precious aspect of this 5 elements spirit fruit was that it not only enhanced the probability of core formation but also improved the quality of the golden core formation. CTH Novelfire, any *T website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. As for him, Mr. Liu, when it came time for his future breakthrough in core formation, he naturally intended to form a superior gold core, a first-grade golden core. If he formed some fourth-grade true pill, it would simply be embarrassing. Even in his view, a second-grade golden core, a third-rank golden core seemed a bit lackluster. He took the jade box and opened it to look inside. Inside was a fist-sized fruit, with 5 elements radiance flowing around it, richly fragrant. Is this the legendary 5 elements spirit fruit? Lu Changxing murmured while looking at the fruit. He closed the jade box, took a deep breath and exhaled, then said to his son, Chuanjin, you're now at the 9th level of energy refinement, and you can start preparing for foundation establishment. As for foundation establishment elixir and foundation establishment spiritual objects, they'll prepare them for you. Lu Changxing said so. His son had given him such a precious fruit, and he, as a father, naturally had to reciprocate. Father, uncle has already prepared the foundation establishment elixir and foundation establishment spiritual objects for me. Lu Chuanjin spoke up. Lu Changxing was somewhat at a loss for words. His brother-in-law had prepared so well, he didn't know what else he could provide at the moment. He said a bit helplessly, all right, if you have any needs or matters, you can discuss them with me. I understand, father. A slight smile appeared on Lu Quanzhen's face, and he continued, Father, I plan to go out for further training next year, to temper myself, and then prepare for foundation establishment. Training, Lu Changxing paused upon hearing this. To be honest, with his son now at the 9th level of energy refinement and foundation establishment just in sight, he was reluctant to let him go out. His son's situation reminded him of Su Ruyan. She was at the peak of the 9th level energy refinement with great prospects secured through a stable cultivation in the family. Yet, something happened during her excursion. Chuanjin, while I naturally won't hinder your wish to travel and gain experience, I still hope you will make your foundation establishment breakthrough at home before going out. Lu Changxing, leaning back in his chair, gently tapped his fingers on the armrest and explained, many cultivators seek out trials in the outside world partly to find chances for foundation establishment and partly to temper their mindsets. With your middle-grade spiritual root, foundation establishment elixir, foundation establishment spiritual objects, and top-level techniques, breaking through to foundation establishment is not a problem for you, and there's no need to take this risk. Right now, the only thing you should be concerned about is the quality of your path foundation. Here at home, we can help you with this, and if you have any problems with your cultivation, we can help you solve them. Lu Changxing said so. His life-bound spiritual artifact, the 7 Luminaries Heart Lamp, was effective in condensing the foundational mana. This effect could be used not only by himself but also to help others condense their mana foundation. The only problem was that it was a bit difficult to operate, requiring more consumption than using it on himself. But now, financially, he was fully capable of solidifying his son's foundational strength to the utmost. Yes, father. Lu Chuanjin nodded in response upon hearing this. His trip outside was also planned with a visit to the Purple Shadow secret realm in mind. After all, only energy refining cultivators could enter this secret realm. Now at the 9th level of energy refinement, and equipped with talismans and a second-rank puppet by his side, he was confident of gaining something from his entrance there. Maybe, if luck permitted, he could find a heaven and earth spiritual plant for his mother to cultivate the heaven and earth longevity technique. Moreover, after learning about this cultivation technique, in addition to his mother, he also wanted to prepare a copy for his sister, Lu Caizhen. For he knew his sister's situation well. Even though she had taken the heaven replenishing elixir, had a foundation establishment elixir available, foundation establishment was still challenging for her. The furthest she could go in the future was foundation establishment, and advancing further would be difficult. If he could obtain multiple heaven and earth spiritual plants, he could also pave another path for his sister. As for breaking through to foundation establishment from energy refinement, do you understand it? Lu Changxing continued to ask, ready to impart some insights into foundation establishment to his son in advance. Son has no understanding in this area. If father has the time, please enlighten me. Even though Uncle Chu Chang'e had already explained it, seeing his father so proactive, Lu Qianzhen still said so. After all, every parent has a bit of a need to feel necessary. If he didn't need his father's help for anything, it might make his father feel somewhat dejected. About foundation establishment, immediately, Lu Changxing began to share his insights on foundation establishment with his son. His knowledge on foundation establishment not only came from himself but also incorporated the experiences of the Qingyun sect and Honglian, making it quite comprehensive. Although Lu Qianzhen had already learned from his uncle Chu Chang'e, he still gained some new insights after listening. He bowed to Lu Changxing and said, "Thank you, father." "Hee, no need to be polite, come to me anytime if you need anything." Lu Changxing waved his hand and said. After Lu Qianzhen left, only Lu Changxing remained in the large hall. He looked out at the darkening moon and murmured, "Chu Chang'e," through his son's words, and the cultivation techniques, heaven replenishing elixir, and 5 elements spirit fruit, he could deeply realize the terrifying extent of his cheap brother-in-law. Because each of these items involved at least a core formation stage to access. Being able to hand out so many gifts to others certainly involved the nascent soul level. Moreover, he could guess that his son probably had other rare treasures. Nascent soul. Could it be that my great brother-in-law is some nascent soul true lord reincarnated, using these treasures to cut off worldly ties and entanglements? Lu Changxing speculated in his heart. Other than this possibility, he really couldn't think of any other. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 837, Mining Vein Contest, Nascent Soul Celestial Phenomenon. After checking on his children in Red Leaf Valley, Lu Changxing left the marketplace the next day. He didn't return to Bai Lake Mountain, but instead headed to Qingyun sect. After all, having been away for so long, it was only proper for him to visit Xiao Shiyu and Zhao Qingqing upon his return. 2 days later, Lu Changxing arrived outside the gates of Qingyun sect. "Sai, whom should I send a message to?" Lu Changxing took out the yin-yang sensing talismans of Xiao Shiyu and Zhao Qingqing and hesitated for a moment. Although he and the 2 women were all Dao companions in reality, his relationship with Xiao Shiyu had always been kept a secret, and they didn't hold the title of Dao companions publicly, not even Zhao Qingqing knew about it. If he were to send a message to Xiao Shiyu now, or to both women simultaneously, wouldn't it seem like he had more than ordinary relations with Xiao Shiyu? Yet if he sent a message to only Zhao Qingqing, he would unfairly treat Xiao Shiyu. After all, Xiao Shiyu came first, and their emotional connection was stronger. Indeed, having multiple Dao companions can sometimes be troublesome. Lu Changxing sighed inwardly, thinking, now that Wangshu has grown so big, there's perhaps no need to keep hiding my relationship with Shiyu. Back in those days, he was merely a qi refinement cultivator, a son-in-law of Qingzhou Mountain, not worthy of Xiao Shiyu, a true heir of an immortal sect. He had also worried about not getting through Xiao Shiyu's master's scrutiny and potentially inviting trouble. But now, with their child so grown, Lu Changxing felt there was no longer a need to keep their relationship hidden. It could be openly revealed. Although revealing their relationship might bring some trouble, in his view, continually hiding their relationship seemed to unfairly treat Xiao Shiyu. Besides, revealing their relationship might not necessarily bring trouble but could even come with many benefits. After all, if their relationship was confirmed, he would indeed be the Dao companion of a nascent soul immortal's disciple. That title itself would be enough to make many people and family forces wary. I love Shiyu, and her master should not violently oppose our relationship, right? Lu Changxing knew that if he were to confirm his relationship with Xiao Shiyu, the only problem would be her master, Kaiyun True Immortal. Such a matter would definitely need her approval. This Kaiyun True Immortal should know of my existence. She even helped me out of a difficult situation before, for Shiyu's sake. She probably does not have a negative opinion of me. Now that I'm proposing a formal union, even if she disagrees, it shouldn't be too bad. Lu Changxing pondered inwardly. Now, as Lu ancestor in the Qingyun region, he had gained some renown. Apart from having numerous wives, Dao companions, and children, he excelled in looks, cultivation level, and talent. Even if Kaiyun True Immortal disagreed, she likely wouldn't do much. I'll ask Shiyu's opinion later. After Lu Changxing had made up his mind, he sent messages to both women, indicating he had arrived at Qingyun sect. However, Xiao Shiyu's communication talisman showed no response, indicating she was not currently in Qingyun sect. Has she gone out again? Lu Changxing raised an eyebrow, murmuring to himself. Through Zi Xiao, he knew that Xiao Shiyu had been very busy for the past 2 years, only visiting by Lake Mountain once. But what exactly kept her so busy, Zi Xiao didn't know. Naturally, without himself, Zi Xiao and Xiao Shiyu both disliked interacting with others. An hour later, a green light flew in from the gate. Lu Lang. Zhao Qingqing, in a green dress, tall and slender, with her black silky hair in an updo, fixed with a plum blossom jade hairpin, looked at Lu Changxing with eyes full of joyful laughter. Qingqing. Lu Changxing, in a green vestment robe, handsome and smiling, called out clearly. Then, the two of them entered Qingyun sect affectionately like that. Who is this man, to be so close with the sect uncle like this? A gatekeeping disciple, seeing this scene, couldn't help but express his surprise. Since Lu Changxing had been waiting outside, it indicated he was not a disciple of Qingyun sect. And Qingyun sect's foundation establishment disciples rarely married out, which he found very strange. You don't know him? That's Mountain Lord Lu Changxing from by Lake Mountain, I hear. Another gatekeeping disciple immediately spoke up, gossip flowing. Although Lu Changxing was somewhat famous, many people had only heard his name without knowing the person. Later, after Lu Changxing and Zhao Qingqing became Dao companions, his fame in Qingyun sect grew. Lu Changxing followed Zhao Qingqing to her cultivated 100 herbs garden in her cave mansion. The layout had changed significantly since her small foundation establishment celebration. In the yard, besides some elegantly simple pavilions and thatched cottages, most places were planted with spirit flowers and spirit grass, making the air very fresh. Lu Changxing knew this was because Zhao Qingqing had a vague body. This spiritual body, besides being good at nurturing spirit plants, benefited her cultivation when she practiced for long periods in such surroundings. Lu Lang, you must be tired from traveling back and forth to your country, right? After arriving in the living hall, Zhao Qingqing made tea and poured water, speaking softly. She knew about Lu Changsheng's trip to Jianghu sect in Yu country. Initially, the ticket for the spiritual vessel was bought by her, and knowing he had returned after more than 2 years, the journey hadn't delayed him much. Not too bad, just a bit boring on the spiritual vessel, Lu Changxing chuckled, lifted his tea, and began sharing some of his experiences from his trip to Yu country. After finishing his tea, Lu Changxing drew nearer and embraced the beauty, his eyes full of deep affection as he spoke in a low voice. Qingqing, I missed you. Sarch * than a fire. Et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Lu Lang, Zhao Qingqing met Lu Changsheng's intensely loving gaze, her heart trembled, and her body softened, a shy joy appearing in her expression. Although she and Lu Changxing were bonded as Dao companions, the emotional connection between them was still developing, lacking the affection that comes with time, so she felt somewhat uneasy with such intimacy. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 838, Battle for the Vein of Ore, Nascent Soul Celestial Phenomenon. She didn't need to say anything, her lips, moist as the spirit fruit of grass and trees, were already sealed by his kiss, striking her speechless. All she could do was wrap her arms around his neck and all but whisper, I missed you too. After a long while, Lu Lang, it's still daylight. Zhao Qingqing seemed to catch her breath from suffocation, her breath fragrant and rich. Usually modest and subdued, her face flushed red with shyness. It was broad daylight, and embracing like this in the hall immediately upon meeting made her somewhat bashful. It will be dark soon. Lu Changsheng's hands roamed restlessly, causing Zhao Qingqing's long, straight legs to tremble slightly, her delicate body soft as silk. Go to the room, Zhao Qingqing's green dress was disheveled and in disarray, she said with a trembling voice. Hearing this, Lu Changxing immediately carried Zhao Qingqing to a simple and elegant thatched cottage in the garden. This isn't the, Zhao Qingqing wanted to say something more, but her beautiful eyes misted over with a hazy layer of tears, her pretty face turned redder, a shy and obedient color on her cheeks. Ah, then which room are you referring to, Qingqing? Lu Changxing asked knowingly. I usually rest in, Zhao Qingqing's voice trembled, even her delicate body shook. Oh, I see, then let me carry you there. Lu Changxing lifted her fair, straight legs and headed towards the main room. A fairy in a green dress, even without anyone else around, couldn't help but shiver at heart, feeling utterly ashamed. But right now her body was weak and powerless, she could only, like an ostrich, shake her head slightly, causing her black and beautiful hair to undo and cascade down like a waterfall, half concealing her face as she clung tightly around her lover's neck, afraid to speak. Her two beautifully curved and rounded legs continually swayed and the world turned upside down, causing an embroidered shoe to slip off, revealing a jade-like foot wrapped in a white silk stocking. Through the thin white silk, the pink hue of her jade-like foot could be seen, sometimes curling, sometimes stretching taut, like a shy young girl. The curtain of night gradually fell, and a gentle breeze brushed through, making the spirit flowers and grasses in the garden rustle, their branches dancing and swaying non-stop. As the night deepened, a light drizzle began to fall in the courtyard, generating the sound of raindrops striking banana leaves, with the garden spirit flowers and grasses swaying in the wind and rain, covered with rolling beads of jade. Somewhere nearby, a water tank had filled to the brim at some point, spilling over the edge and dripping onto the wet, green grass below. Inside the simple and unadorned room, Zhao Qingqing's face was flushed, her black hair spread out like a waterfall, her fair body blushed and covered in fine beads of sweat, lying in Lu Changsheng's arms, breathing delicately with a hint of satisfaction and comfort between her brows. Qingqing, how have you been in the sect these past 2 years? After conveying his full longing, Lu Changxing held Zhao Qingqing's fragrant shoulders and asked softly, letting the smoothness slip through his fingers. I, as a spiritual plant master, only need to. Zhao Qingqing's voice was soft as silk, and her breath was fragrant as she recounted softly. As a second-order spiritual plant master, practicing her life-nourishing exercises, she didn't need to take on outside missions. As long as she wished, she could stay within the sect cultivating spirit plants and spiritual medicines without venturing on assignments. As for her master, they maintained a normal relationship, giving each other due respect. After all, there remains a concept of honoring one's master and valuing the way in the cultivation world. If the situation was handled too badly, it would reflect poorly on both parties. Besides, her master only wanted Zhao Qingqing to submit back then and hadn't gone too far. The next morning, Lu Changxing and Zhao Qingqing went out to catch up with their good friend Han Lin and also to see their children. Originally, he also wanted to see his brother-in-law, Xia Zhaoyang. But learning that his brother-in-law was at the 9th level of energy refinement, striving for foundation establishment and spending most of his time on tasks outside, search * the novel Fire. Net * website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Lu Changxing didn't inquire further. He planned to give Xia Zizhu 3,000 spirit stones upon his return. As a token of sponsorship from him as a brother-in-law, a small investment. After all, Xia Zizhu had given birth to 3 offspring for him, one with a 3rd-grade spiritual root, one with a 5th-grade spiritual root, and one with a 6th-grade spiritual root. In such circumstances, he was naturally willing to care for this brother-in-law. Moreover, this brother-in-law was decent, with a 4th-grade spiritual root, and being in the Immortal sects, his foundation establishment would also be a good thing for him. As for the foundation establishment elixirs and foundation establishment spirit objects, he wasn't so affluent yet. Daoist Han must also be preparing for foundation establishment now. Lu Changxing looked at Han Lin and asked. Foundation establishment is hard to come by, I dare not aspire to that goal. I plan to take on a task next year and head to Qingyan Market to see. If there's an opportunity, I'll take it, but if not, I'll just let it be and seek a position within the sect. Although Han Lin was nearly 50, he appeared only in his 30s, clad in a loose earthy yellow robe, with a dark complexion, plain-faced, and displaying an honest smile. If I remember correctly, Daoist Han is just 49, still in his prime. With effort, Foundation establishment is still hopeful. Lu Changxing spoke thusly. Back when they participated in the sex examination, he became close with Han Lin, hence he knew about the other's age. That's true, but Foundation establishment elixirs are hard to find, and with my low-quality spiritual root, even with the elixir, breaking through to Foundation establishment is still very difficult. Why waste money and effort? Being like this now, I am already quite content. Han Lin smiled broadly. Lu Changxing didn't persuade him otherwise. After all, to each their own. Besides, for a cultivator with a low-quality spiritual root, even with a Foundation establishment elixir, there's a 90% chance of failing to establish the foundation, with efforts of most of a lifetime turning to naught. As a first-grade top-tier artifact refiner, as long as he didn't gamble on Foundation establishment and squander his finances, Han Lin's life could be very comfortable. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 839, Battle for the Vein of Or, Nascent Soul Celestial Phenomenon. By the way, did you know about Daoist Xiao's current situation? Lu Changxing continued speaking. He had wanted to ask Zhao Qingqing yesterday if she knew about Xiao Xia's situation. But coming to see one woman and asking about another, Mr. Lu would not stoop to such actions. I'm not sure about that. I mostly spend my days refining artifacts, and I have limited access to information. Han Lin shook his head as he spoke. He tended to be oblivious to the affairs outside his window. Moreover, as an energy refining cultivator, he didn't have access to much information regarding the Foundation establishment. I heard that the sect discovered a large vein, and Kaiyan True Immortal personally oversees it, so Daoist Xiao has also been stationed outside for these years. Zhao Qingqing spoke up. As a Foundation establishment cultivator, she still had some channels of information within the sect. A vein? What kind of vein requires a nascent soul immortal to personally oversee? Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing expressed his surprise. I'm not entirely sure what kind of vein it is, but it definitely belongs to a rare type, mainly because this vein is located in the Luoyun mountain range, and there could be conflicts with the Wuxia sect. Zhao Qingqing said softly. Luoyun mountain range, I see. Lu Changxing realized suddenly. The Luoyun mountain range was a border range between Qingyun sect and Wuxia sect. With the vein appearing in the Luoyun mountain range, there naturally arose an issue of ownership. Now that a true immortal was personally overseeing it, it indicated that both sects were likely disputing this vein. Although the major immortal sects of Jianghu country cultivation realm were all righteous forces and would assist each other in times of danger, they would still take action when interests conflicted. After briefly catching up and chatting, Lu Changxing and Han Lin took their leave, and Lu Changxing went with Zhao Qingqing to visit his children and see how they were doing. With Aunt Zhao Qingqing there, his two children were doing very well in Qingyun sect. Especially Lu Xingyue, who was studying medicine, Zhao Qingqing could even provide some guidance. S.E.A. the novel, F. Ire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. After visiting his children, Lu Changxing did not leave immediately but decided to stay a few days at Qingyun sect. After all, since he was already here, it made sense to stay for a few days and spend more time there. 5 days later. At Lingyao Peak, in the 100 Herbs Garden, Lu Changxing was watching Zhao Qingqing cultivate and introduce various spirit flowers and spirit grasses. Just then, whoosh whoosh whoosh, far away, the wind and clouds atop a mountain peak changed. Countless nature's spiritual energies suddenly converged, forming a massive vortex of spiritual energy that spread out like a tidal wave. This vortex continued to spread, swirling like a funnel-shaped tornado, and the top was even misted with a faint rosy glow. What's going on here? Lu Changxing suddenly looked up. This is Kaiyan Peak. Looking at this commotion, it seems like someone is breaking through. Zhao Qingqing also looked towards the peak, her brows slightly furrowed. Breaking through? Could it be core formation? Lu Changxing was shocked and felt that this scene somewhat resembled a breakthrough in Foundation establishment. But the scale of the disturbance was more than 10 times larger than that of Foundation establishment. Not just them, at this moment, the entire Qingyun sect was alarmed, all looking towards Kaiyun Peak. What a huge commotion, what happened? It's the nascent soul celestial phenomenon. Someone at Kaiyun Peak is attempting core formation. Kaiyun Peak? Could it be Fairy Qin Yi, disciple of Kaiyun True Immortal, attempting core formation? It's rumored she was gravely injured and went into closed-door cultivation. I didn't expect her to attempt core formation. The nascent soul celestial phenomenon, terrifying indeed. SSS, looking at the power and appearance of this celestial event, it's evidently her passing through the 3 challenges of core formation, starting the final step, essence liquid crystallization. Once Fairy Qin Yi successfully breaks through to core formation, Kaiyun Peak will have 2 dual core formation cultivators. I wonder if Fairy Qin Yi can successfully break through. Fairy Qin Yi with Sword Heart Clarity, a first-grade spiritual root, cultivates our Qingyun sect's cornerstone cultivation technique, the Qingyun sword technique. She will definitely succeed in forming her core, perhaps even able to condense a high-quality golden core. A high-quality golden core, that's incredible. I think even forming a true elixir would be quite impressive. Inside the Qingyun sect, countless people looked up at the swirling spiritual energy vortex spreading across the sky, buzzing with discussions. Search the novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 840, Breakthrough Core Formation, Stirrings of Affection. Hoo, accompanied by the swirling vortex of spiritual energy above Kaiyun Peak, spreading continuously and permeating with spiritual pressure, Qingyun sect's mountain protection array also began to operate at this moment. After all, a breakthrough to core formation was a major event for Qingyun sect. They would not allow any interference. At this moment, there were nascent soul immortals within Qingyun's sect who had woken up from closed-door cultivation, sitting in the sect to protect and oversee the process. Is this Qingyun sect's mountain protection array? Lu Changxing looked towards the sky. Before his eyes, the entire great formation resembled an upturned bowl made of white jade and glaze, emitting dazzling light, with rolling clouds pervading it, and within seemed to be azure dragon soaring. While the great formation did not emit any terrifying spiritual pressure, the mere sight of it already gave off an unfathomable sense. At the same time, with the grand commotion on Kaiyun Peak, the oppressive might of the spiritual energy dissipated invisibly. It only allowed one to see the spiritual energy vortex hovering in the sky. This spiritual energy vortex continued to frenziedly sweep up and ingest the nature's spiritual energy from around, forming a halo of clouds, constantly spreading to encompass the entirety of Kaiyun Peak within a radius of 1 mile. Judging by this momentum, there's a high probability of successfully forming a core. Lu Changxing watched the scene, pondering silently. He had once inquired from Hong Lian regarding knowledge about core formation. He knew core formation and foundation establishment shared similarities. For foundation establishment, one first has to pass through the 3 gates of foundation establishment, then concentrate mana to lift the Dao platform. The same goes for core formation. It also has 3 gates, followed by essence liquid crystallization to form the true elixir. At this time, the core formation celestial phenomenon on Kaiyun Peak was stable yet forceful, with an aura that climbed higher and higher, indicating strength and foundation robust enough to most likely succeed in forming a core. However, being a disciple of an immortal sect truly has its advantages. Not only do they break through realms in an excellent environment without worrying about spirit veins, but they also don't have to fear interference. Although I have prepared a complete set of resources for core formation, what I lack is a stable environment for the breakthrough. Lu Changxing looked at the halo of light above Kaiyun Peak and the Qingyun Great Formation, musing silently. Although he was confident that he could break through to core formation in the future, he still faced a big problem at present. Spirit veins. Breaking through to foundation establishment requires second-grade spiritual veins to supply spiritual energy. The same goes for core formation. It requires at least third-order spirit veins to supply spiritual energy. Otherwise, during the breakthrough, should spiritual energy become insufficient, it could lead to failure due to exhaustion. Bai Lake Mountain currently only has second-order superior spirit veins, which are simply not enough for anyone to use in a core formation breakthrough. Even with the spiritual eye spring, and with the help of Mount Sumeru, the spiritual energy inside the cave heaven could reach the peak of second order, or even approaching third order, it still would not be enough for him to form a core. The spiritual energy required for a breakthrough is too vast. This is why most cultivators eventually join a power. Only a great power can provide a stable spirit vein environment for someone to break through. For loose cultivators to break through on their own is incredibly difficult. With Mount Sumeru at home, providing the utmost stability, if I could break through in the Mount Sumeru cave heaven, even the core formation celestial phenomenon could be concealed. If I cannot advance the spirit veins at home, in the future I will have to leave home to break through to core formation. Although I could go to the Immortal City to rent a third-order cave abode, after all, it's not as stable as at home. Moreover, if I were to break through, I am certain to condense a high-quality gold core, and at that time the celestial phenomenon would be too astonishingly loud and could easily attract trouble, Lu Changxing pondered. Originally, core formation was still quite a distance away from him, and he hadn't thought too much about it. But now, witnessing the core formation celestial phenomenon, he couldn't help but think about his own future core formation endeavor. Lu Changxing did not think any further, exhaled lightly, and turned to Zhao Qingqing, asking, Qingqing, do you know who is breaking through? The core formation celestial phenomenon was so extraordinary that it indicated the person breaking through was no ordinary individual. I'm not sure, but given its Kaiyun peak, it's highly likely it's Kaiyun True Immortal's eldest disciple, which is Daoist Xiao's senior sister, Qingyi Fairy. She's listed among Qingyun sect's true inheritors, and had already reached the foundation establishment late stage in her early years. Judging from this core formation celestial phenomenon, she's likely attempting core formation. Zhao Qingqing, clad in a green dress, with her black hair coiled up, looked refined and beautiful. Qingyi Fairy? At the mention of this name, Lu Changxing paused suddenly, with the image of a woman dressed in white, hair tied in a single ponytail, with a delicate and three-dimensional face that combined feminine softness and a cool air of heroism, coming to his mind. He hadn't expected the person attempting core formation to be Chu Qingyi, whom he had once met briefly. But upon reflection, it made sense. Chu Qingyi had been an inducted true inheritor of Qingyun's sect from an early age, possessing the late stage, even peak stage, of Foundation Establishment's cultivation level. CTH Novel Fire. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Now, over a decade later, her attempt to break through to core formation seemed normal. By the way, how old is Fairy Qingyi now? Lu Changxing asked curiously. Although he had a good relationship with Shiyu, and knew her master was Kaiyun True Immortal and her senior sister was Chu Qingyi, he did not know much about the two women's circumstances. I'm not sure about that. Zhao Qingqing shook her head, speaking, the rumors say Fairy Qingyi was adopted by Kaiyun True Immortal at a young age and brought back to the sect. She should be quite young, probably not yet 100 years old. Not yet 100 years old, it seems Fairy Qingyi truly possesses remarkable talent. Lu Changxing said, somewhat impressed. To break through to core formation before the age of 100 was enough to be called a genius. After all, not all cultivators are like him, who had not even reached the peak of foundation establishment but had already gathered the resources needed for core formation. Most cultivators have to work hard for their cultivation resources daily and are distracted by various tasks. When approaching late stages, they need to prepare resources for their next realm breakthrough. Even with Chu Qingyi's outstanding talent, having a core formation master, and being a disciple of an immortal sect, attempting to break through to core formation is not easy. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 841, Breakthrough Core Formation, Stirrings of Affection. Lushing knew that obtaining resources required his own efforts. Originally, Lu Changxing was almost ready to return. But now, encountering a breakthrough in core formation, he planned to stay a bit longer and observe this core formation celestial phenomenon. Moreover, at this time, the Qingyun sect's great formation was operating at full capacity, and although it did not result in sealing off the mountain, it enforced strict checks on all who entered and exited. 3 days later. Above Kaiyun Peak, a vortex of spiritual energy clouds broke through a radius of 3 miles. This core formation celestial phenomenon, that morning, Lu Changsheng and Zhao Qingxing stepped out of their room, gazing at the core formation celestial phenomenon above Kaiyun Peak with some surprise. According to what he had learned from Hong Lian, although the celestial phenomenon during core formation did not entirely determine the progress and quality of the cultivator's core formation, it gave a rough idea. For example, if the spiritual energy cloud vortex constantly maintained within a 2 to 3 mile radius, it was likely a low-grade flawed pill. Wuxia World. Sight if it broke through a 5-mile radius, it was probably a middle-grade true pill. If it could break through a 10-mile radius, it was likely a superior gold core. In 3 days' time, Chu Qinjia's spiritual energy cloud vortex suddenly encompassed a 3-mile radius, indicating a strong foundation, at least a middle-grade true pill, possibly even a superior gold core. Of course, there were also possibilities of complications arising during the process, resulting in core formation failure and the dispersion of the cloud. But through these clouds, one could broadly assess a person's foundational strength. As time passed, the spiritual energy cloud vortex kept climbing and spreading above Kaiyun Peak, eventually covering a surprising 7 to 8 miles in radius. Could Fairy Qingyi actually be condensing a superior gold core? Inside the Qingyun sect, someone exclaimed in surprise. Although Chu Qingyi was a true disciple of a nascent soul immortal from Qingyun, condensing a superior gold core was still extremely challenging. Once a superior gold core is condensed, the future would behold a nascent soul seed. That's true, but within our Jianghu country cultivation realm, other than Xianjian true monarch, there has not been another nascent soul true lord. Our Qingyun sect doesn't possess a fourth-order spirit vein, so breaking through to nascent soul would necessitate seeking opportunities outside. Many people were paying close attention to the situation on Kaiyun Peak, keen to know Chu Qinjia's breakthrough progress. After all, if the sect could add a nascent soul cultivator, it would be an absolute cause for celebration for Qingyun sect. They would certainly hold a grand core formation ceremony to celebrate and announce it to the world. Another 7 or 8 days passed. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the spiritual energy cloud vortex above Kaiyun Peak furiously swept across, breaking through a radius of 9 miles, 9.1, 9.3. This tremendous activity caused even the latent spiritual pressure hidden by Qingyun sect's mountain protection array to start emanating. It made the cultivators of Qingyun sect witnessing the event feel an intense, invisible spiritual pressure. Especially the disciples and cultivators of Kaiyun Peak, who at this moment experienced a stifling, heart-pounding sensation. This scene, Fairy Qingyi is impacting a superior gold core. She's actually condensing a superior gold core. If our Qingyun sect can add a golden core true person, our foundation will significantly strengthen. At this moment, everyone in Qingyun sect was profoundly shaken, fixating their gaze on the skies above Kaiyun Peak. After all, this was a superior gold core. Red Sun Peak. A magnificent palace. Atop an ancient-looking pavilion, a woman in her 30s dressed in a green Daoist robe, her black hair coiled into a bun, holding a scroll, stared at the scene over Kaiyun Peak. Impacting the superior gold core, her slender hands, as pale as white jade, tightly gripped the scroll, her expression solemn and somber. Another day passed. The spiritual energy cloud vortex above Kaiyun Peak finally reached a 10-mile radius. However, this swirling mass of clouds was unstable, fluctuating up and down, causing everyone watching this scene to feel emotionally turbulent. No one knew how much time had passed. Boom! The spiritual energy cloud vortex above Kaiyun Peak twisted to its limit and exploded with an astonishingly vast spiritual pressure. Then, like a receding tide, the spiritual energy vortex dispersed, leaving only lingering glimmers of light. Amidst heaven and earth, faint sounds of the great Tao resonated, descending upon the summit of Kaiyun Peak. Has the breakthrough succeeded? Has a superior gold core been condensed? How would I know? This is my first time witnessing a core formation celestial phenomenon. Judging by the movements of this phenomenon, it somewhat resembles the golden core phenomena recorded in ancient texts, but also not quite. Inside the Qingyun sect, numerous people watched the unfolding scene, chattering amongst themselves. As the spiritual energy vortex above Kaiyun Peak vanished, Qingyun sect's mountain protection array shifted from full operation back to normal. After all, regardless of the force, operating a great array at full capacity consumed a vast amount of spiritual energy and was unsustainable in the long term. Has the breakthrough succeeded? Lu Changxing watched this scene and let out a long sigh, feeling quite emotional. He had been closely following these events these past days, and he had to admit, the activity during the core formation was incredibly astounding. Far exceeding the disturbances during Foundation establishment by more than 100-fold. It also made him realize how difficult it was to gather sufficient spiritual energy through a second-grade spirit vein and other means to break through core formation. Especially to condense a superior gold core, which required an immense amount of spiritual energy. Even an ordinary third-order spirit vein might not be secure enough, affecting the chances of forming a core. Condensing a core, Zhao Qingqing stared at the clouds and light above Kaiyun Peak, lightly pursing her lips, momentarily lost in thought. Even though she knew she had no hope of achieving core formation, nor did she expect to, seeing such a phenomenon still involuntarily sparked in her a shade of longing. The next day after Chu Qingjia's breakthrough in core formation, Lu Changxing left Qingyun sect. He had originally planned to stay only 5 or 6 days, but it turned into a month. Once back home, Lu Changxing explained to Ling Zixiao and Lu Miaoge why he had been delayed for so long. Condensing a core, hearing this, Lu Miaoge's beautiful eyes also showed a hint of deep yearning. Chapter 842, Breakthrough Core Formation, Stirrings of Affection. Previously, she had never dared to dream of core formation, considering Foundation establishment a success. But now, cultivating the water of virtue technique, condensing a perfect foundation base, and possessing Lu Changsheng's Tai Dao seed, she may not be able to break through to core formation yet, but she at least had the qualifications to attempt it. Core formation? Daoist Xiao's senior sister? Upon hearing this, Ling Zixiao couldn't help but give Lu Changxing a strange look. My lord, do you recognize this true person from Chu? She looked at Lu Changxing and asked aloud. Lu Changxing? What's with this skeptical tone and expression? I once met her by chance. Lu Changxing didn't hide anything, noting that he had encountered this fairy Qingyi during his initial visit to Zhouxiao Immortal City, where she was being pursued by the Xiahou family. How fitting for Lu Lang. Ling Zixiao nodded thoughtfully. Wuxia world. Sight, Zixiao, what do you mean by that? Just because I met a female cultivator once, you think she has something to do with me? Lu Changxing spoke with a righteous expression. Although he had a somewhat intimate interaction with true person Chu. But as a healer, he was solely focused on saving her without any ulterior motives. My lady didn't say that. Ling Zixiao's gentle smile came accompanied by an elegant look, her bright eyes brimming with innocence. Starting to tease me, are you? Lu Changxing made a fierce face and immediately scooped up Ling Zixiao's voluptuous and exquisite body. Ling Zixiao had agreed to having children, and since his trip delayed him so much, he naturally had to make up for lost time. Afterward. Zixiao, aside from the spiritual origin pearl and the spiritual spring, do you know of any other methods to advance the spiritual vein? On the white jade bed, Lu Changxing held Ling Zixiao, whose body was soft as silk and whose cheeks were flushed, and he asked aloud. Other than the spiritual spring, there's only the oceanic bead, a treasure capable of nurturing spiritual veins. Otherwise, my lady isn't sure. However, I've heard in the cultivation world about methods to cultivate spiritual veins using heavenly and earthly treasures to accelerate their growth. But am not familiar with that area, my lord could ask Senior Red Lotus. Ling Zixiao gently caressed her smooth, slightly bulging belly and spoke softly. After deciding to conceive a child with Lu Changxing, she grew more and more excited about the pregnancy. Yet she knew that both she and Lu Changxing, being Foundation establishment cultivators, wouldn't find it easy to conceive. I'll ask Red Lotus later. Lu Changxing let his palm wander over her snow-white jade-like skin. My lord, are you thinking about core formation? Ling Zixiao softly asked. Given that Lu Changxing mentioned Chu Qingjia's formation of her core today and now inquired about cultivating spiritual veins, he was evidently contemplating core formation. Indeed, although I am still far from reaching core formation, I must start considering it, Lu Changxing spoke softly, sharing his concerns. My lord could consider breaking through a Qingyun sect when the time comes to form your core. Ling Zixiao's pale, delicate fingertips traced circles on Lu Changxing's chest as she spoke softly. Qingyun sect? Lu Changxing raised an eyebrow. Indeed, my lord once participated in the Immortal sect's examination at Qingyun sect, and since then, he has grown under Qingyun's rule. Nowadays, Bihu Mountain even offers tribute to Qingyun sect annually. So, in the eyes of Qingyun sect, my lord is considered to have a clear background, almost one of their own. As long as my lord is willing, with his identity and skills, entering Qingyun sect shouldn't be difficult. Ling Zixiao snuggled in his arms and spoke softly. My lord's concern is that advancing to core formation too soon might attract trouble, others envy. Lord has a special relationship with Daoist Xiao. Now that her master and senior sister are both nascent soul immortals holding significant sway in Qingyun sect, with these two immortals willing to help, my lord can certainly make a stable attempt at core formation in Qingyun sect. Moreover, Qingyun sect also hopes to increase the number of nascent soul immortals within the sect. Ling Zixiao's voice was gentle and unhurried. That makes sense. Lu Changxing spoke softly. He saw this as a plausible option. But with his low-quality spiritual root, breaking through to core formation within a century and condensing a high-quality golden core would certainly bring him fame and attention. Though after breaking through to core formation, his strength would be enough to rank him among the top in Jianghu country. But in the cultivation world, there were still nascent soul true lords. Who knows if a nascent soul true lord might covet his fortune and target him unexpectedly. After all, if truly targeted by a nascent soul, that would be troublesome. Therefore, if possible, Lu Changxing would rather not undergo his core formation breakthrough under the public eye. The next day, Lu Changxing intended to inquire with Red Lotus about methods of cultivating spiritual veins. But the ancient beast taming charm was within Su Ruyan. Currently, Su Ruyan was in closed-door cultivation, bonding with her life-bound beast. He chose not to disturb her, planning to ask after Su Ruyan emerged. In the following days, Lu Changxing stayed at home practicing cultivation, making talismans, and crafting elixir medicines. Also, he had the shop at Red Leaf Valley display and sell second-rank elixir medicines, signaling that he, the master of Bihu Mountain, crafted them. And also, undertook some elixir medicine crafting, formally revealing to the outside world that he had become a second-order alchemist. That day, in the alchemy room, Lu Changxing was instructing Li Xingrua in alchemy. Suddenly, he felt an inexplicable palpitation, as though a string inside him had snapped. Is this the Lockhart goo? Lu Changxing paused internally, his expression focusing slightly, mysteriously sensing the source of the palpitation was from the Lockhart Gus thread of attachment. Chapter 843, Nangong Yaoyao, Sister Xiao Chan, do you know who my father is? 5 Poisons Cult, Tianzhu Peak. In the seclusion chamber, a mysterious and magnificent cocoon, dreamlike and fantastic, flickered with flames that were alternately bright and dim. Phoenix bathes in fire, nirvana rebirth, existence and extinction in a flash, all impurities washed away. Just then, a clear, cold, and moving voice arose from the flaming cocoon. As the voice sounded, the cocoon suddenly burst into dazzling red light, illuminating the entire cave mansion. Immediately following, the cocoon began to burn, filling the cave with fierce, crimson flames. A glorious and graceful phoenix, its silhouette intermittently visible, appeared to dance within the fire. It raised its head and let out a long cry, its voice lofty and grand, melodious and winding, like a magnificent symphony that touched the heart deeply. Crack, crack, a series of subtle, cracking sounds emerged. And then, a figure with perfect curves and alluring grace appeared amidst the flames. Lu Changsheng, Wuxia World. Sight the flames dissipated. A woman around 28 or 29 years old materialized, her countenance exceptionally beautiful and seductive, her phoenix eyes long and piercing, her skin pale and smooth as jade, curvaceous and enchanting, completely devoid of dirt or blemish, her beauty breathtaking. In her cold and secluded beautiful eyes, a hint of complexity was revealed. Through the Phoenix Gu and Phoenix Nirvana technique, she had finally undergone rebirth from the fire, cleansed of all impurities, breaking free from Lockhart Gus effects. Upon breaking free from the Lockhart Gu, her first act was to check her own impressions and feelings toward Lu Changsheng. But when his face and figure emerged in her mind, she couldn't tell what emotion she was experiencing. Hate. There wasn't the anticipated loathing, the urge to kill and then be rid of it. Love? Now that she had broken free from the Lockhart Gu, how could she possibly like this person? But if not love or hate, then what? Greed, wrath, delusion, malice, desire? At this moment, Nangong Meili herself couldn't articulate it clearly. She was only aware that she could not regard Lu Changsheng with indifference. The man had severely disturbed her inner peace, becoming akin to a heart demon to her. Although this person is indeed hateful, he ultimately saved me and Xiao Chan and also gave me Yao Yao. Nangong Meili's beautiful eyes overflowed with a hazy, magical luster as she whispered to herself, starting to speak. Even without the influence of the Lockhart Gu, her affection for her daughter Nangong Yao Yao remained unchanged, her love even greater than before. After all, she had decided to bring her daughter into this world after careful consideration, not because of the influence of the Lockhart Gu. Thinking of her daughter, a gentle longing surfaced in her beautiful eyes. But the next moment, her phoenix eyes narrowed slightly, her tone clear and cold. This man possesses a certain supreme Taoist body that can elevate a true elixir to an immortal golden core. Such an unparalleled opportunity cannot be missed. Furthermore, he once did to me. Nangong Meili recalled the humiliation from the past, her slender jade-like hands clenched tightly, her face showing a touch of exasperation. This was the time in her life she least wanted to remember, a moment she considered the utmost of shameful disgraces. She, a nascent soul immortal and a heavenly spider envoy of the Five Poisons cult, had been so humiliated by a minor Foundation establishment cultivator, a grudge that would not rest until settled. Lu Changsheng, wait for me. Nangong Meili's expression turned icy. At this moment, she pinpointed the root of why she could not remain indifferent towards Lu Changsheng. Such a disgrace, and moreover concerning the opportunity of the Golden Core, absolutely could not be overlooked. If he would just obediently comply, considering his past act of saving her and for the sake of her daughter Nangong Yao Yao, she might reluctantly spare his life. If not, Nangong Meili was not someone known for her kindness and mercy. Having sorted out her thoughts, Nangong Meili felt her mind clear. She gracefully lifted her hand and took out a set of purple luxurious robes glittering like flowing light and stars, so dreamy and fantastic, from her storage ring. Those completely white, graceful feet, their toes translucent and showing faint blue veins, were now adorned with a pair of purple crystal high heels. Tap, 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 with a graceful and swaying posture, her robes billowing, she quickly exited the seclusion chamber to visit her daughter. Having not seen her for a year, her yearning for her daughter was profound. On Tianzhu Peak, at a dark jade plaza, Meng Xiaochan was teaching Nangong Yao Yao to practice techniques. Over the year, with her master Nangong Meili in closed-door cultivation, she had arranged all affairs and devoted herself to caring for this little sister. Though she called her a little sister, she essentially treated Nangong Yao Yao as her own daughter. Yao Yao, you must be tired, take a rest for a while, Meng Xiaochan spoke to the little girl in front of her, who was as exquisite as a carved doll, and strikingly adorable. Though only 10 years old, Nangong Yao Yao's tender face already carried an endearing charm, her every smile and frown like a blooming purple lotus. Her long, nighttime dark hair hung to her waist and was coiled up by Meng Xiaochan into 2 buns, adding a mischievous cuteness. Sister Xiaochan, when is mother coming out of her seclusion? Nangong Yao Yao's eyes were clear as if filled with flowing starlight, her voice youthful. The master said it would be about a year, so it should be soon. Meng Xiaochan still looked like a young girl, Her face showed a doting smile, her aura ethereal and dreamy. But upon hearing this, concern for her own beloved rose inside her. Her master's current seclusion was to remove the Lockhart goo. Once it was lifted, she might act against Lu Changsheng. The two moved aside to rest. The table was set with various rare spirit fruits, pastries, and desserts. Sister Xiaochan, do you know who my father is? Nangong Yao Yao sat down with an elegant grace, picked up a piece of peach blossom crisp, took a light bite with her tender lips, and asked nonchalantly. Upon hearing this, Meng Xiaocan's gorgeous face froze momentarily. Then, as if nothing had happened, she asked with a smile, why do you ask about this, Yao Yao? Chapter 844, Nangong Yao Yao, Sister Xiaochan, do you know who my father is? I've read in books that everyone has a father and a mother, but I only have a mother and have never seen my father. Nangong Yao Yao showed a serene and charming smile as she ate peach blossom crisp, her face innocent and naive. This, Meng Xiaochan was at a loss for words for a moment. Although Nangong Mili publicly claimed that Nangong Yao Yao was a girl she had found and adopted, with Nangong Yao Yao's appearance and Nangong Mili's usual affection for this daughter, who would believe she was merely picked up? Nangong Yao Yao herself probably wouldn't believe it either. After all, she knew her younger martial sister was very bright and understood many things. There were many things she didn't know simply because Nangong Mili hadn't taught or exposed her to them. Could it be that my father is the heartless man mentioned in the books that abandoned my mother? Nangong Yao Yao tilted her head, her lips pursed slightly, and her face adorable. No, it's not, Wuxia World. Sight Wuxia World. Sight. Ko Meng Xiaochan instinctively defended her lover, but she didn't know how to explain it to Nangong Yao Yao. After all, her master's affair with Lu Changsheng was a secret. Such matters could absolutely not be disclosed, especially not to Nangong Yao Yao. Nangong Mili did not wish for her daughter to know anything about Lu Changsheng. So why is it? Nangong Yao Yao continued eating peach blossom crisp, her face still adorable. Seeing her obedient and cute demeanor, Meng Xiaochan even felt reluctant to deceive her. But in the next moment, she showed a doting smile and gently touched the other's bun, saying, Yao Yao is still young, when you grow up, you'll know in the future. She thought to herself that her sister was really no ordinary person. Without having cultivated any bewitching techniques, her behavior still somehow influenced people's hearts as if it were a bewitching technique. Nangong Yao Yao, adorable and still somewhat baby-faced, rested her chin on the table, looking deflated and pouting coquettishly. Hee, Yao Yao is good. Meng Xiaochan, seeing her cute expression, couldn't help but reach out and pinch her cheeks, which caused Nangong Yao Yao to let out a coquettish groan. Yao Yao, Xiaochan. Just then, Nangong Mili appeared midair, dressed in a purple palace gown and high heels. Mother. Nangong Yao Yao immediately stood up and called out, her voice filled with joy. Master. Meng Xiaochan bowed in salute. Even though her master, Nangong Mili, told her not to bother with too much formality in private, she still remained consistent in her manners. Yes, Xiaochan, you've worked hard these past few days. Nangong Mili said softly as she looked at Meng Xiaochan. Although she managed to break free from the effects of the Lockhart goo with the use of the Phoenix goo and the Phoenix Nirvana technique, her disciple Meng Xiaochan was still severely affected by the Lockhart goo. She judged that her disciple's affection had deepened, much more severely than her own. Even with the Phoenix goo, it was not easy to resolve. Moreover, Phoenix goosa were extremely rare, and she had paid a significant cost to acquire this one. It was impossible to prepare another Phoenix goo for Meng Xiaochan, and there was no valid reason to request another. She even suspected that, even if she had a Phoenix goo, Meng Xiaochan might not be willing to undo the effects of the Lockhart goo. As long as Xiaochan and he never meet again, it should be fine, Nangong Mili thought to herself. Without thinking further, she looked at her daughter Nangong Yao Yao and showed a motherly radiant smile, stepping forward to embrace her daughter, Yao Yao. Mother, Yao Yao missed you so much. Nangong Yao Yao, enveloped in her mother's warm and soft embrace, spoke softly. Yes, mother missed Yao Yao too. Nangong Mili, hearing this, felt her heart melt. At that moment, her spirit was tranquil, and her usually enchanting and malicious face transformed into a doting smile, her eyes brimming with maternal charm, completely hiding the usual venomous persona seen by outsiders. Even Meng Xiaochan, seeing her master like this, was deeply moved. After all, over the years, she knew exactly what kind of person her master was. Master, for Yao Yao's sake, perhaps, but it's clear that master does not want Yao Yao to know about Lu Lang. Meng Xiaochan thought that her master was likely to settle her emotional debts and disputes with Lu Zhang. But she was unclear on her master's current attitude towards Lu Changxing. However, from what she understood of her master's temper, she was likely more than willing to kill Lu Changxing and even torture him to an unbearable life. By Lake Mountain. Lake Heart Island. So it's Nangong Mili, Lu Changxing, looking at a blood-red Lockhart goo that was barely an inch long and crystalline, muttered to himself. He had thought earlier whether Nangong Mili could break free from the Lockhart goo. After all, the Lockhart goo was just an earth spirit goo. As a nascent soul immortal of the 5 poisons cult, which specialized in goo poison, if she knew about the Lockhart goo problem, she might be able to break free. I wonder if this matter will affect Xiao Chan and Yao Yao. Lu Changxing was not afraid of Nangong Mili himself. If she dared to come to Bai Lake Mountain to find trouble, he could make her pregnant with triplets. Even outside, he was not afraid of Nangong Mili. As long as he deployed the talisman formation and the endless guileful head, even if he couldn't suppress her, she wouldn't be able to do much to him. His only concern was that, knowing about the Lockhart goo, Nangong Mili might hold a grudge against Meng Xiaochan. And even towards himself, thus affecting his daughter Nangong Yao Yao. After all, his and Nangong Mili's deep interactions were limited to the physical, without involving the emotional level. He was still unsure of what kind of person she truly was. At least initially, through Heaven Knowledge Tower, he saw information about Nangong Mili, knowing she was not a good person. Chapter 845, Nangong Yao Yao, Sister Xiao Chan, do you know who my father is? Sigh, beauty leads to trouble, Lu Changxing sighed in his heart. Initially, when he had rescued Nangong Mili, it was true that he did so for the sake of Meng Xiaochan, hoping that the other party could resolve Ling Zixio's dragon roar physique. But he could not deny that he had developed some feelings for Nangong Mili. Especially after finding out about the situation with the Lockhart goo. I hope this won't affect Xiao Chan and Yao Yao too much, Lu Changxing took a deep breath and said. His sense of urgency regarding his cultivation strength grew even more. If he had the cultivation of core formation, he could have gone directly to Jin Kingdom and tried to bring back his daughter, or Meng Xiaochan. But for now, even though he possessed various methods and was not afraid of ordinary core formation cultivators, he dared not take the risk lightly. That night, Lu Changxing drowned his sorrows in wine and merriment, forgetting his worries. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. Wuxia World. Sight during this time, Lu Changxing turned his distress into motivation, and the 3 concubines in his house successfully conceived. However, Ling Zixiao still had not conceived. It goes to show that it's invariably harder for 2 foundation establishment cultivators to get pregnant. Since returning from Qingyun sect, Lu Changxing had his family keep an eye on the news from the Luoyun mountain range. Indeed, they learned that Qingyun sect and Luoxia sect were contesting the ownership of a mine vein within the Luoyun mountain range. And even some conflicts had aroused between the 2 sides. Though the conflicts were not significant. Hearing this news, Lu Changxing couldn't help but worry a little about Xiao Xia. After all, according to Zhao Qingqing, Xiao Xia was with her master, standing guard over this Luoyun mountain range. Moreover, as news of Mountain Lord Lu Changsheng's promotion to a second-order alchemist and the sale of second-order elixir medicines at the Red Leaf Valley market began to spread, it caused quite a stir. Neighboring family forces, such as Qingzhou Mountain, Hundred Birds Lake, Centipede Ridge, Su family of Yushan, among others, all sent people to congratulate him. After all, the status of a second-order alchemist is somewhat higher than that of a second-order talisman master. Fully equivalent to a foundation-building great cultivator. Especially since Lu Changxing, as the master of Bihu Mountain and second-rank talisman path master, had now become a second-order alchemist. His achievements were beyond remarkable. Any astute observer could see that Lu Changsheng's rise to a second-order alchemist within a decade suggested he might have a chance to become a second-tier top-level alchemist in the future. Once he became a second-tier top-level alchemist, he would be a distinguished guest wherever he went in the cultivation world. He could even go to the Immortal sects to serve as a visiting noble servant. Somehow, a new title, Master of both Pill and Talisman, began to circulate about Lu Changsheng. However, as Lu Changsheng's various deeds over the years became known, other family forces grew increasingly wary of Bihu Mountain's influence. A second-order talisman master, a second-order formation master, Dao companion to an Immortal sect disciple. Now with the additional title of a second-order alchemist. It was clear to everyone that Bihu Mountain was thriving day by day with a promising future full of potential. This caused some Foundation establishment family forces in the Qingyun region, even those of the false core forces, to feel a sense of crisis. As family forces began to rise, with multiple Foundation establishment cultivators, one problem they had to face was this: the family spirit vein could not keep up with sustaining so many Foundation establishment cultivators. They needed to establish branch families or even new family spirit lands. Currently, the Qingyun region was relatively stable, and most second-order spirit lands had owners. Lu Changsheng's acquisition of Bihu Mountain had been respectable, but no one wanted to become the next Bihu Mountain. For this situation, Lu Yun, the family head, was aware, and through his mother Lu Miaoyun, informed Lu Changsheng. To this end, Lu Changsheng discussed it broadly with Ling Zixiao and Lu Miaoyun. The family's business was mainly centered around the Red Leaf Valley market. Although there was some influence in the surrounding area, it was mainly cooperative relationships, which should not cause any disturbance. However, once they wanted to expand their business beyond this area, they anticipated many challenges. To this, Lu Changsheng did not pay much mind, merely instructing his family to keep things steady with their current affairs. After all, the family was not truly reliant on these businesses for their modest earnings. With enough time and stable development, once his children grew up and he himself broke through to core formation, these problems would no longer be issues. As the saying goes, persistence pays off. After Lu Changsheng's diligent efforts, a month later, Ling Zixiao finally became pregnant.